the park and then like to hold it and then to have DPW like supply.
Probably asking us to lend the insurance to them too.
Oh, I think so.
So that's
So
probably
that
makes
one
it
would
a
be
roll
important,
call.
yeah.
There's a financial contribution. I feel like I'm missing things.
Do you want to do that for the consent agenda or is it easier just to voice vote? Yeah. And as long
The
as,
vouchers used to be,
well, the vouchers are dealing with money, so I could see that being a roll call.
like in the olden days, like 10 years ago, the vouchers were the consent agenda.
Oh, I didn't know that.
I don't know, must have come out for some reason.
You just let me know, I kind of wrote myself notes, so.
I mean, I think we're protected the more we do roll call.
Jake's alarm went off. He's playing baseball and if he gets full of
I have all of this, so you feel free
his
to.
alarms go off.
There's another one here too.
Oh, give me Ryan.
No, he does, he has his.
Well, that one, I think
It's called the G-Vote.
You can have this one, I'm not gonna use that
And
one.
it
Sometimes I
goes
wonder
right
how long
into the-
these
yeah, there's
bottles of water
instructions
have
on
been
the whole
sitting
thing.
here.
All the coaches know where it's at.
Oh, really?
But
Oh.
if he's out on base,
Because when I
it
come
like
from
goes
planning
away.
commissions, they're here too.
I
and
can't monitor
they've been
his
here
ball
all the
time
time.
dugout when he's out on the field.
Sure. Dwight, are you giving a report tonight? Thank you.
It's just what's required, obviously, best practices or whatever you.
Yeah, now I'm hot. I mean, it's cold. It feels good in here, sitting outside in the sun for the last 2 hours.
This is for
humid.
roll call purposes.
Today working out on that, but today I got up, I said, I'm gonna be trying to be done by noon, so.
We said storms tonight.
Yes.
It looks like they might slide by again. We need water.
Down the corner of my property.
I know, not my property. I live in a swamp.
I know. I did have for quite a while my lowlands. Do you have lowland?
Yeah, I'll say so.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Goes back to David.
Can you drop it off on your way? I thought you were just delivering things.
Are you ready to start?
I'm fine with that.
Well,
The mosquitoes are
live already.
I think we're gonna have a hedge to beat.
Hard for me, that's why I'm really concerned about the standing water I have.
Take one and pass it down, please.
Yes, ma'am. Here you go. Ah. Are we having a technology class today?
Only for you guys to get instructions.
Just gotta get a new printer. My printer sucks.
Every time I do it, it seems like I do it different. but it's-
Good evening. We're going to call the meeting to order at 6:02. This is the Bath Charter Township Board meeting, regular meeting for Monday, May 20th. Let's start with the roll call.
Trustee Kellerman?
Here.
Trustee Hagerman?
Here,
Trustee Rosencrantz?
Here.
Supervisor Hewens Bliss?
Here.
Treasurer Wilson?
Here.
Trustee Phillips?
Here.
And absent is Clerk Butler Challenger.
Thank you. Now we'll move to civic reflection. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance and move to a moment of silence. So stand if you're able to join us.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Now a moment of silence. Thank you. Welcome back to our last meeting of the month of May. We have an agenda in front of us. I haven't heard from anyone that we need to move anything around. Is there any amendments folks are hoping to the agenda tonight? Seeing none, I'd take a motion to approve.
I move we approve the agenda as printed.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, we'll do a voice vote. All those in favor of approving the agenda as presented, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. That brings us to disclosures of conflict of interest. Does anyone have any conflicts they'd like to disclose today? All right, seeing none, we'll move on. That brings us to public statement 1. For our public in the audience, this is a 3-minute time period for you to come up and talk about items that are on the agenda tonight. There will be a second 3-minute time period where you can come and address the board on any topic you'd like at the end of the meeting. But the first one is for agenda item topics only, please. If you're interested in making a public statement, feel free to step up to the lectern.
Right.
May I interrupt? Our recording is not working. Can you give me a couple of minutes to see what I can do?
Oh,
Yeah, sure.
I'm sorry.
say it went live, it told me it went live.
Oh, how do you get that in your phone?
Sign up for the YouTube to get notifications.
I get notifications about everything. I've turned them all off.
Because it says it went live on my phone. That's how come I told him and we went live.
I'm with Ryan, I turn all my notifications off.
No, it said it went.
There's just too many.
That's actually not a bad, it's just a short walk.
Oh, it's going live. You can hear it.
When I say it drives me nuts, it's not a drive, it's just
It's
a
just a
short walk.
short step.
Is it going?
Rosencrantz
Sounds
is
like it was
Shakespeare.
going.
Oh, well, that's what I'm rolling with. I don't know why I said that.
I've been assured that we, I'm sorry. I've been assured that we are actually live streaming and it is being recorded so we can move ahead with the meeting. My apologies.
A little blooper in tonight's episode.
Well, it wasn't showing me that it was recording, so I just wanted to ensure that it
No,
was.
it's good to take that for what it's worth.
Thank you.
Thanks. Public statements. Anybody interested in public statements? All right. Next up, we've got items from county, state, federal, and/or other agencies. Melissa Schutt from Clinton Transit is on the agenda. I also see our county commissioner, so we'll start with Melissa and then go to our county commissioner.
Okay.
Welcome.
Thank you for your time. Is this on? Okay. I'm usually loud enough without a mic. For those of you that don't know me, I'm Melissa Schutt, the Executive Director of Clinton Transit. I joined the team there in July of 2019. And we hit the ground running and have not slowed down since. So thank you for your time tonight. I want to just be as brief as possible. In August of 2020, we asked the voters here in Clinton County and Bath Township to increase our local millage from 0.2 of a mil to 0.7 of a mil. That passed with 67% support. And so I first want to offer you my gratitude and my thanks for supporting that millage. The gift that you are giving your neighbors, community members, and for some of you even loved ones, family members, is the gift of connection. That's what public transit does. Well, that's what we do when we get in our car every day, right? We connect with people. We connect with our jobs, with medical care, and even more importantly in my book, to one another. And so thank you for that gift and supporting the Blue Bus and keeping the people of Clinton County connected. So in August of 2020, we said we were going to do 3 things. I'm just going to roll through those real quickly. We said we were going to increase our wages. We have done that. Our operators used to make $10.50 an hour. They now make $18 an hour. Little did we know back then when we made that decision that we would be competing with McDonald's and Target, but we thought we would be competing with over-the-road truck drivers. But nonetheless, the increase in wages, because those decisions were made preemptively before the pandemic, we didn't have to respond to that. We weren't reacting to the wage war that's going on. We were already doing that. And I think that has really helped with our recruitment. A lot of my peer transit agencies across the state cannot recruit drivers. So that has put us in a position where we have really significantly been able to increase services. The second thing we said we were going to do was improve technology. We changed our scheduling software. We added tablets on the buses instead of, we used to use driver log sheets, paper log sheets. Those tablets on the buses also provide us with GPS location and other type of monitoring data that for our drivers that are on the road. We've added a mobile app to our technology, so you can go to the Play Store or iPhone, whatever the name of that is. I'm sorry, I'm not an iPhone person. But, and look up Clinton Transit. Currently, we are part of a statewide mobility challenge called the Mobility Wallet Challenge. And that is going to take our current app and I guess amp it up, for lack of a better term, because I am not technical. You don't want to ask me for technical advice. But it's a X4 MOS platform with the goal being that, because currently we cannot pay, the passengers can't pay for their rides. With this new X4 Michigan Mobility Wallet, they'll be able to pay for their rides. But also the intention is, and one of MDOT's strategic goals is to have a platform, an app, if you will, that someone could use and they could travel anywhere in Michigan, and every transit agency and a multimodal system would be on that platform. So we are part of kind of the ground of what that, efforts of what that happening throughout the state. Kind of a soft launch right now, testing it out with a few of our passengers, and you'll see some more of that press release and information come out in the next couple months. See, the third thing we said we'd do, and even more importantly, was expand services, and we did that. We added Saturdays. July of 21, and 80% of our rides on Saturdays consistently remains people going to and from work, which was an interesting statistic. I thought it would be dialysis, but it is employment. And we expanded weekdays from 7 to 9 p.m. to help with our second and third shifters. We continue to expand our regional connections with CATA. We expanded some of our community connections program, which is specifically for our most vulnerable residents here in the county, persons with disabilities, seniors, and veterans. And what that does is allow us to provide service to any other county, like for example, Battle Creek for the veterans, Shiawassee, Gratiot. Primarily we see a lot of that being utilized for medical. And it also provides a higher level of service in terms of door-to-door. That program does, so we can go to the door. Our standard blue bus dial-a-ride system is curb to curb. Because of all of the changes and the strategic decisions that have been made at Clinton Transit over the last 5 years, we are, and I can confidently say, the only transit agency in the state of Michigan who has not only recovered our pre-pandemic ridership, but we've done so by 40%. We're knocking it out of the park, and we feel like we're still kind of just on the cusp of the needs that are still there. In 2023, the board and the trajectory of our increase in ridership, it was decided it was time to kind of take a step back and reassess, where are we going? What are the needs we're not meeting? I mean, it's always nice to hear what we're doing well, but more importantly, where are we not doing well? And so we engaged in a transit development planning process. You all have some goodie bags over there. And in that, you will have our transit development plan. We started in April of 23 and approved it in April, finished it in April of 24. And the primary objective with that transit development planning process was to engage community members. We did it through Facebook, Facebook campaigns. Everybody in the county received a postcard with a QR code so you could go in and answer a survey. We had really good participation with that survey. And what came out of that process, or that engagement with the community, is 3 services that the public would like to see here in Clinton County. Expanded services, Sundays. We all know that life doesn't stop happening for any of us, any day of the week. And so Sundays was the biggest request that came out of that community feedback. Later Saturday evenings, right now we only run till 6 p.m. And so there's a need to help our second and third shifters on Saturdays as well. And the second service improvement that came out of that was what we would call scheduled service. So think of bus stops, CATA bus stops, your bigger city. We don't have, it wouldn't be in, you have to have high population density to cover something like that. So we would call them a connector route, and it would be from DeWitt to St. John's. And potentially in the future from DeWitt to some Lansing areas as well for transfers. That's what we call scheduled service. So you don't have to call, the bus will be there at same times every day. The third service improvement that came out of the planning process is what we in our industry call microtransit, what you would call Uber. And so that kind of same day, get on my app, request a ride, 15 minutes later there's someone there to pick me up. That is a growing trend actually across the country for public transit agencies, but you obviously could not do that type of service for an entire county. It has to be very focused in on the population density centers, and for us here in Clinton County, that's St. John's and DeWitt. So we would be looking at those for future service improvements for the residents here in Clinton County. Real quick, in your goodie bag as well, you have a 2023 annual report. Give you some ridership statistics that occurred in 2023. For example, most rural transits, you see the trip purpose for the bus system being medical. We are 43% employment. And medical comes in a close second, not real close, 24% is medical. So it's an interesting trend happening here in Clinton County for why people are using the blue bus. And if we look at just Bath Charter Township ridership statistics, which, by the way, Bath Charter Township rides increased 22% from 22 to 23. So that's a good increase. That means we are meeting more needs out here, and we will continue to do so. But your statistics are for trip purpose, employment 55%, medical 18%, shopping and services 18%, and then recreation, community events, and that such is 7%. So that's what you're seeing here in Bath Charter Township. Regain my thought here. Oh yes, passenger type, real quickly, for Bath Charter Township, regular, what we call regular, it just means they're not a senior or a person with a disability. They don't fit in either one of those categories, 54%. Well, that's interesting. Seniors, 27%, and persons with disabilities, 19% out here in Bath Charter. So, one of the things that, as I mentioned, the 2020 millage, we're on the ballot August 6th. It's been 4 years. So what I want to make sure that we clarify and make sure people understand is, how many of you are familiar with the Headley rollback amendment? Okay. So you understand then that the millage that was approved back in 2020 has been reduced every year. In order for us to recapture that or have a millage at the rate that it was in 2020, we have to list it as two separate. So it'll show renewal of 0.6924, which is what the millage, rolled back millage is for 2024, and then it'll show a new millage of 0.0076. And we're not asking for an increase, that is simply trying to recapture what's been rolled back or reduced from the Headley Amendment. And so you have some flyer information on that as well in your goodie bag. I think, we've talked a little bit about the wages that were increased, the technology, all of those factors that have played a role in the success of Clinton Transit. But even more importantly is our business model change. We have taken and really changed our philosophy and made a paradigm shift from moving buses to moving people. And when you do that, there's so much more opportunity. There's so much more opportunity. So, and also it doesn't have to be, the long-term goal with Clinton Transit is that we are the mobility experts in Clinton County. All things mobility. You call us, and we might not be the one providing the ride, but we're the one connecting you to the ride. Ultimately, I think that's our responsibility as a public transit provider. And so that's a shift and a change in our business model that I believe has also contributed to the success that we're seeing at Clinton Transit in terms of meeting the needs. Now, what you did not hear me say tonight is I did not give you a list of days and times and where we will go and where we won't go. We don't start our conversations there. You can go to mybluebus.com and you can see those published days and times. But I encourage you to still call us if it's outside of those days and times. Because the second part of our business model is to be responsive to the needs. To not expect your mobility needs to fit into our bus box, right? I think, again, it was something where we could do better in the public transit industry, and we knew that. And so Clinton Transit, our approach is, let's start with yes, and let's make it happen. What are the needs? You know, one of the opportunities that presented itself during the pandemic was for us to step up to the plate and say, okay, it's not safe for you to go to the grocery store, how about we bring the groceries to you? You know, and just responding to that need, and doing so with an amazing team of compassionate, kind individuals who will literally go the extra mile for everyone in this community, for everyone that they serve. So just thank you again for your time tonight, and open the floor for questions. You have my business card in front of you. Any need that you're coming up against, please give us a call. We had a couple weeks ago, was it Pratt Road, had a ribbon cutting for a new park, I believe it was, and Kyle from the Parks and Rec Department called and said, you know, we need people, there's not enough parking down at the park. We need them to park at Riley Township Hall. Can you shuttle them back and forth? Yes. That's our answer. Yes, let's figure it out. Let's make it happen. That's what we're here for. And we just thank you for the opportunity to serve you. And with that, I'll entertain questions.
Questions?
No questions, but I have a comment if nobody else has a question.
I do have a question.
Go ahead.
If you wouldn't mind.
No, I don't mind at all.
I have a statement and then a question.
Very good.
My statement is Bath Township has twice the population of St. John's. So we and DeWitt are your population centers, not St. John's.
Okay.
God bless St. John's, but I just want to make sure people know. The question is, I know you've been on this slew of emails that I have been on by one of our residents who is very upset about some of the recent changes. I was hoping you could just talk us all through this. The inability to go to places in Ingham County that are not the CATA stop, no longer being able to book rides on the app. And I'm sure you saw part of this. She said was no notification of changes made her
And I appreciate
miffed.
the opportunity to clarify with you what has happened.
Yeah.
So back up one step. In order for us to go into any other jurisdiction that has a transit agency, we have to have what's called an interlocal agreement. We have to have permission to do so. And many times, or in some cases, I wouldn't say it's very common, the transit agency where we want to go is going to dictate how we can go there. Meaning we have to transfer, we can only go for certain purposes. So it was, our interlocal agreement with CATA was very restrictive up until 2 years ago. We could only transfer folks and we could only go for medical. We negotiated that interlocal agreement to go anywhere in Ingham County, what we call one-seat rides for our residents in Clinton County for any trip purpose. Because as I advocated to them, Grandma Mary going to her grandson's soccer game is just as important as her getting to the doctor's office. I hope someday when I'm that age, my life means more than just going to the doctor's. But back to this individual and the situation that we've run into, when the technology for our scheduling app, we have to kind of create polygons, if you will, in the system. So the mobile app, we were restricting, part of our interlocal agreement is anybody that is considered ambulatory or a regular passenger, CATA wants us to transfer them. That's part of the agreement. So this individual, anyone that's not, that if they're a senior person with a disability, they have to call our dispatchers and we will take them, we will give them the one-seat ride, right? And what happened with this individual is the polygon was not drawn properly in our system. So when we were looking at and launching the new Michigan Mobility Wallet app, we noticed the mistake there. And so it's not, it is, I know and there's a source of frustration. She can't do what she's always been able to do. She can still get her rides into Ingham County, one-seat rides. But to use the app to do that, it's only gonna go to transfer centers for CATA. So that's the only way we could audit, if you will, or control that particular function.
So she can still get where she's going, but she's got to call.
Yes.
And is that true for everyone, or is this a positional thing, geographic thing for this one person?
No, it's in her case, it was where she was going.
Yeah.
She never should have been able to do it.
Got it.
It was, as a technical error, when we drew the polygon on the map, she never should have been able to get there. So, and then we corrected the issue, and I know we've tried to convey that in a couple different ways, because we understand the source of frustration for her.
Yeah, I appreciate it. She said, I'm a single mom. This is my only way of transportation. Sometimes things come up on the weekend and I want to schedule the things for Monday, but instead have to wait till Monday morning until someone's answering the phones to get things taken care of. So I heard, and I'm sure you did too, the frustration, but your explanation is helpful. Thank you.
Well, and ideally, if it were my world, I would want to just let her use the app to go anywhere in Ingham County.
Right.
And I fear that that's not going to get any better with CATA. So.
The fear is you're encroaching on their territory.
I think they're seeing a lot of blue buses over there, and I think there's some political implications that we're gonna encounter. So I don't think it's gonna get any better, unfortunately.
That's
and
helpful.
it's their jurisdiction. So I'm not a fan of transferring to different systems. I'm a fan of one-seat rides. I think it can be done with 2 different agencies. Maybe we take them in, kind of brings them back. I'm good with that.
Yeah.
But that's all got to be, carefully negotiated.
Yeah, as you can imagine, the time out of someone's life to do the transfer is.
Well, that's just it. Yeah,
a lot.
And for some that are, it's just walking from here to there is difficult. Those are the people that I'm a pit bull. I get in that room with CATA and say, I'm not going to put our residents through that. We got to find something that works. So, but again, I appreciate you sharing that and giving me the opportunity to clarify, because I know she's maybe not happy with our answer, but it's the only way that we can move forward at this point.
Well, if there's ever any help you need in advocacy with CATA, I think we would be interested in advocating on behalf of our residents, who it makes much more sense for them to go, 6 miles south to Ingham County than up to St. John's or somewhere else. I would imagine that folks would be willing to put something together for that.
I appreciate that. I'm sure we'll be calling on you.
Jack?
Yeah, I just want to say, having had the opportunity to work with Melissa for going on 2 years now, Pitbull's a good name, but I would say Dynamo would have been the way I say it. She does everything except, I don't know if you've actually had a wrench in your hand and fixed a bus shop. Other than that, she's done just a remarkable job, and I appreciate her, and it's good working with her. So thank you, Melissa.
Thank you, Jack.
Any other questions or comments? Thanks for coming tonight.
Yeah, thank you. If you have any residents with that, some situations that you're not sure, just give me a call, text me. You have my direct line, so you can get to me and ask me, and we will let you know what's going on. We do want to be as accommodating as we can, but there's boundaries at some point.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Have a good day.
You too, thank you.
Thanks for the goodie bags, too.
Yes, you're welcome.
Dwight Washington, I'd really like to echo Jack's comments about Melissa as our executive director. Has just done an exceptional job, and we're really proud of her for what she's doing for the county.
Did you bring us goodie bags?
Nope.
No.
All right.
Sorry. Again, Dwight Washington, Park Lake Road, and I'll be brief today, bringing up 4 points just for your information. One is that Riemann and Associates gave us unmodified approval of our finances, so that's always a relief, and consistent really do a good job. And our accountant, Wiswasher, has been able to keep up with things and has gone through a serious change of leadership there, and he's been able to hold down the fort well. 1. 2, Clinton County did open up a new park called Clinton Lakes Parks off of Pratt Road, and that's had been a soft opening, so people are there, they're walking around, though it doesn't have amenities or facilities yet, it is open for people to walk around, and there's a lake that will be swimmable and fishable for people. 3, there's a Healthy Capital Counties assessment, and I'm not sure if you're aware of this, but this takes place every 3 years, and it gathers information from the Tri-County area on whether some of our health needs, and would be really valuable if people were to get out and to give their comments, because typically it's Ingham County that dominates that survey and the results. So The Board of Commissioners and the county has been advocating and encouraging people to become part of that, to get their opinion out so that we can be just as well represented. And then 4, I wanted to let you know that the Tri-County Office on Aging is also, is continued to be interested in our senior citizen population. And one of the things that they're doing is they're bringing a program to the Bath Senior Center on June 5th, and it'll be Assistant Attorney General Kristen Steindorf, who will be addressing and providing information for people on fraud and scam awareness. And there's been a growing rate of incidences that are occurring, so this is an attempt to make people aware so that they don't get scammed. And that's my presentation for you today. No
Questions
cookies.
for Commissioner Washington?
Is there a link for the Tri-County? The assessment?
Healthy capital assessment.
Yeah, do they have, does Clinton County have it on their website someplace, do you know?
Clinton County actually does it.
Oh.
Healthy Capital Counties does.
Healthy County.
And there's a, it'd probably be easiest to go there, but I could tell you it's bit.ly/HCCHM, excuse me, CCHEALTH survey, health survey.
Would you mind sending that to me, and then I'll share it with everyone else? Or you can share with everybody?
Yeah, I'll do that.
I saw folks scramble to write it down and then give up.
Yep.
Probably a good idea if I send it to you, it'd be much easier.
That'd be great, thank you. And then we
Because we can
can
share it.
post it where we need to post it. Do you know if the county's going to build more parks?
It's a big leap to go from one, and then one across the street, and then to a third one that's like down the road. So the county park department is gonna have to go through some growth. But there still is a watch, if you will, a lookout for purchasing a park in the southern part of the county. And so where that is, there's just a strong bias towards sand pits, or gravel pits, excuse me. And that's kind of like what the consensus of the park board is that those are clean, easy, water activities that people can get into.
We've got land at the township, so if the county would be willing to work with us, it seems like there could be a partnership there.
Right now, they're aware that there's an interest in Park Lake on the backside of that for a park, and that hasn't met the criteria that the park board is looking for. Like I said, there just seems to be a strong bias towards sand pits, so I don't know, or gravel pits. Were you thinking of a gravel pit?
No, I think that's a strange bias for them, but we have property on Upton Road that the rec committee right now is talking about building a new park. I mean, it could be a great opportunity to partner, and maybe the county doesn't have to staff it. Maybe our staff can staff it. It just seems like there's opportunity there.
I will continue to raise that issue and let them know that there is other ones. Again, they are looking for, the consensus seems to be a water-based park. So, because that's an amenity that's hard to find in Clinton County.
We got water in Bath. More water than we know what to do with.
That's from the world.
Thanks.
Pleasure.
Any other questions, thoughts for folks?
All right, well, I wish you all a good evening.
Thanks, Dwight.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That brings us to the consent agenda tonight. We've got the minutes of the Planning Commission. Is there interest in a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I make a motion to accept as submitted the consent agenda.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. It's the consent agenda, so we don't do discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. That brings us to the approval of minutes. We've got two sets of minutes, minutes from the special meeting, actually, I guess 3 sets of minutes. Minutes from the special meeting of April 29th, minutes from the special and regular meetings, both held on May 6th. How would you like to handle them tonight?
Accept them together. I make a motion to accept both the minutes from the special meeting and the regular meeting of April 29th, 2024, and May 6th, 2024.
All 3 sets.
Oh, there's 3 sets?
There's a special.
Oh,
and a
special and a
regular.
regular, okay. Changed my wording.
Motion and a second. Is there any discussion about approval of the minutes? Seeing none, we'll take a voice vote. All those in favor of approving all 3 sets of minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries as well. That brings us to item number 9 on the agenda, approval of vouchers. Is anyone interested in taking action on vouchers tonight?
I move we approve the vouchers that were on the counter.
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second for vouchers. Any discussion? All right, we'll do a roll call vote for this one.
Treasurer Wilson?
Yes.
Trustee Rosecrans?
Yes.
Trustee Kellerman?
Yes.
Trustee Phillips?
Yes.
Trustee Hagerman?
Yes.
Supervisor Fuhns Bliss?
Yes. Motion carries. Brings us to the treasurer's report. Our next report won't be until July 15th, the second quarter report that will be. No committee appointments tonight, item 11, no township committee reports either on item 12. Getting into the business of the meeting, item 13, unfinished business. We do have a couple of items under introduction and discussion, starting with a development update from our planner, Miles Robler.
One second. Cool. All right, just a couple of things have changed since we last did a development update in front of the board. So we've had a couple applications come through and introductions to the planning commission. I'll go through those and just know all of these projects I'm about to talk about have been introduced. They haven't received an agency review and we haven't gotten a full set of plans in yet. So the first project is within kind of our newly adopted private roads language. We're looking to work with a developer who's seeking to divide out some properties here, and then do a land combination here. And so it would, right now, there's 4 parcels served by the very southern portion of the north-south portion of Ann Drive, which is private. They're looking to take that up to 6 parcels being served, so that would establish 2 more driveways than what is currently permitted.
I think it was 5, was it?
5.
Okay.
Yeah, it's weird because the it's 5 on that, but because of that split, that will make 1 more parcel served by this portion of Ann Drive, but that will be the original parcel that will retain its service up that portion of Ann Drive. Now, why there are 2 different forks of the road, both called Ann Drive, I have no idea. Okay. The next one is pretty, probably one of the simplest developments I've ever seen, which is 9 units to be placed on club course. They're calling it the landings number 2, so just basically copy and pasting kind of the format, setup, and architecture of the first landings, and applying it here. The developer's looking to do 5 units on the south side, 4 units on the north side. The only somewhat conflict item would be the approach here. It's been long an ale of the people that live off this road that, you know, it's 55 miles an hour, they're trying to make a right, they got a truck coming up right behind them, they feel like they don't have enough of a deceleration lane. I hear that issue, it's something that me and the road commission have talked about, but it is a road commission issue separate from this development, and they're not looking to establish drives on Chandler. So it, in our view right now, it doesn't exacerbate that problem, it just doesn't fix that problem. But it seems like there might be a push to try to get that addressed.
So Miles, you were saying on both of those property across the road from each other, or just one of them?
So, both kind of, so it's this parcel here, and then I'll draw, and this is by no means a survey, I'm eyeballing this here, but something like that, and then they'll do 4 units on this side. Something like this. And then, so then it'd be 5 on the south, 4 on the north. This is a public road here, there's sewer and water available, that's what I'm saying, I mean, it's pretty clean cut. So then, the other, one that was introduced, but we still don't have an agency review, and I'm excited about this one just because I don't think there's been too much investment in the quote-unquote downtown or village area in a while, is 2 quadplexes to go on this parcel, which has recently been combined. So that's exciting. They're gonna be in a townhome style or a row house style. There'll be a 4-plex, which is a pretty popular housing option for developers right now. And a pretty, I wouldn't use the term affordable housing, cause I think that has connotations of like Section 8 housing vouchers, but I would say the buzzword in planning right now is attainable housing. So that means housing that like regular people can afford. So, yeah, that's kind of the projects that, since last time. I think the only other notable thing, and this didn't come to the planning, or the Board of Trustees, cause it was a by right use, is a private school that got approved by the planning commission on State Road. And so now that's moving into more of its building, construction, review phase. So we haven't received any construction plans yet, but we'll probably be getting those in the next month or 2. They're doing kind of, as is popular these days, a modular building through a company that specifically does schools. And so they build these modular school kits to the standards that schools have to be built for various states. And so that's kind of cool, but, yeah, so coming in on this parcel here, in the low-density residential, which is a by right use, educational institutions within that district. So there was a little bit of it felt odd to folks because they were like, what's going on my street? But again, it's a by right use, so from the zoning standpoint, it's pretty clear cut on how to, analyze the situation. And it also limited the planning commission's ability to ask for add-ons. However, the developers were willing to, anything that was kind of brought up, which was mostly lighting, trying to buffer neighboring uses, they were more than willing, I felt like, to work with the planning commission. They did end up doing additional bushes, additional trees. We met with police and fire and went over kind of the safety aspect around schools, because obviously it is a sensitive land use. So things like bollards were added in front of the building, because unfortunately we live in a really, weird time in a weird world where people will try to put a car through a building or something. So we had to think about all those elements, and they were more than happy to add any safety mitigation features that were brought up, which I felt was the responsible thing to do.
It's a pretty small school, right?
It's pretty small.
So
Yeah.
folks, I think, have heard the word school and picture, Bath Middle
Big
School out there,
facility.
yeah.
No, that's correct, that's a good point. No, it's pretty small. Student body of this organization right now, I think is in the 20s. They're looking at max to get up to like 40, but that's like in their phase 3 way down the line. So we're talking 2 classrooms at this point, and down the line we could be talking 4 classrooms at their max build out.
Is it going to be a private for-profit or a private nonprofit school? Nonprofit. So the land will shift its use to nonprofit.
Yeah, and they set up a 501c3 at this point, and there's a, obviously a whole assessing piece to that that's way outside of my wheelhouse, but yeah, they will have all those implications.
Okay.
And that's it.
Yeah?
I was taking a ride with George Baker, and down the end of Main Street, where the elevator used to be, is where they're gonna put them units, right?
Where the what used to be?
The elevator, where the railroad
Somebody
tracks.
help me.
Grain elevator?
Okay, yeah.
What?
I don't know what that
Not
is.
like a Willy Wonka elevator?
Yeah, I'm like, all right, an elevator.
Then the railroad tracks were there.
Okay, yes.
And George had mentioned
Yeah,
that
you just come right through here.
they're gonna put some kind of protective layer for the chemicals that are in the ground on them railroad tracks won't get into the houses.
Yeah, so what he's talking about is, okay, well, what about the soil type? Obviously, there's lots of areas in the Midwest that are kind of a post-industrial area, we don't want toxins. So with that in mind, and with some of the information about these parcels in mind, they've opted to not dig basements out for these structures. They're kind of just gonna do a foundation slab, so we're kind of cap and seal the dirt that's there. And so it kind of mitigates the whole, well, what about the soil question? But obviously, again, when this gets its agency review, the agencies that it's sent to is the Michigan Health Department, Eagle, and they'll all get their stab at it. I'm definitely not an environmental scientist, I don't pretend to be one, but we will send it to people who are environmental scientists and see what they say.
One thing I thought was interesting about that project is that square behind it was like a no man's land.
Oh, yeah, this one.
That nobody had ever owned it, and there was no records of it belonging to anybody ever. And that was amazing to me that could happen.
There's many of those.
There's many of those.
They typically aren't
Weird
this
little tiny
large,
ones.
they're typically little slivers. We'll see if, Mr. Estruth, who's a developer in this case, wants to petition that at the Clinton County Circuit Court. So we'll see, we're in favor of that, because it would clean up this parcel. But, it's something that he would have to take upon himself. All right.
Other questions for the planner? Thank you. I appreciate you coming regularly and doing this for us.
Yeah, for sure. All right, I'm going to go get a drink.
All right, that brings us to 13AB, hiring update from the superintendent.
Thank you. I wanted to just give the board an update on changes to staffing. We have, in the past, this board approved a new position, which was assistant to the clerk. We held interviews, had some quality candidates for that position, and actually have a young lady that has accepted the position and is negotiating a start date. We're excited about that because, as you know, we have several elections, major elections this year in August and November, and she will be of tremendous value during those elections to help our current staff get through those peak times for us.
And I think this is the position that I keep reading on Facebook is the assistant to the assistant. It's really the assistant to the clerk, right?
It is the assistant to the
No
clerk.
assistants here have an assistant.
That's correct, no
Okay,
assistants
just
have
want
assistants.
to put that on the record.
Yes, so currently, Deputy Clerk April Dunham assists the clerk, which is Brenda Butler Challenger, and this position is assistant to the clerk and will report directly to Brenda and myself, as most of the positions in the office do report to me as well. The recreation coordinator gave us notice of her intent to leave us, and we are happy that she's taken a new position. Sad to lose her, of course. So we have that is currently being posted on our website. We have already received, I believe, several qualified applicants, and we are looking through those to begin interviews. Adam Montry, the chair of the Recreation Committee, is helping us with those. So we are having some other people help with that as well. And we'll begin probably interviews very soon. Our DPW, we have both a full-time position available as well as a part-time position, and that's summer temporary help. So we are currently interviewing that. I will say that in other years, there has not been a lot of candidates for the part-time temporary seasonal work. This year, we received quite a few high school students that were interested in working for us for the summer, which is very exciting, and could morph into a full-time position someday if they were so qualified and chose to do that work and stay with us, and they were qualified for the position. So very excited about that as well. In addition, Mary Horde, who is the lead cook in our senior center, has given her notice to us as well. Alyssa Trainer-Mann is her assistant cook, and she will become the lead cook at the senior center, which should be a seamless transition. She's worked very closely with Mary for several years, and I think that she'll continue to lead as she has in the past, and will step up to lead the rest of the kitchen staff. So we are currently looking for an assistant cook. Unfortunately, the two interviews we had scheduled for last week did not show up, which shocks me and doesn't shock me at this point in time after COVID. So we will continue to look for quality applicants for that position as well, and hopefully we'll get that filled as soon as possible. Any questions?
I went to the Senior Services Advisory Board meeting some recent time, relatively recently, and they were asking about programming and activities over at the senior center, who was doing them? I think Becca, our current rec coordinator, made it clear who's doing that. But they seem to believe that there was a necessary other position that should exist. Is that where you're headed with your thinking?
It is my intention that the recreation coordinator would not only schedule programming, but the deputy superintendent and I have discussed having that person be in the senior center Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, to be available as people are coming in for lunch and to be filling the need where I think people said where they should be being greeted and be participating in the happenings during and after lunch. So it is our intention that the recreation coordinator will fill that gap as it has been identified. And I think that would be the best person to do it, as that person would be the person helping them if they need assistance, be helping them find the assistance they need.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Sherry, would you mind taking that back to the committee so they know what the plan is? Other questions about hiring, staffing, stuff? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Why don't you keep the ball rolling here with the Chandler Road Sewer Project?
Thank you, I appreciate that. So as many of you know, there is a large sum of money, $10 million, that was awarded to the township and a local municipality to make improvements both to the road, a non-motorized trail, and drainage in the area of, sewer, non-motorized, and the road. Sorry if I wasn't clear on that. So we have gone through the process with the Clinton County Road Commission to look for engineering firms. I believe we had 6 applicants that applied to do the work for the RFQ. 2 were identified, which was Prine and Newhoff, who is currently our township engineer, and HRC, another qualified firm in the area. When narrowed down and asked for their time frame and for their plans for that area, Prine and Newhoff today was notified that they were successful in obtaining that work. We are very excited about that because we work very closely with them on our sewer and road projects. So it should be a project that is easy to work through despite its magnitude. And their focus on sewer and roads, I think, was sufficient for the Clinton County Road Commission to choose them to do that work. They've handled projects of this magnitude and much larger in the past, so we're very proud that we work with a good firm and that we will be able to continue work with them on this project.
Is the reason they had to bid it out because of the size?
Correct. And the money coming through the Clinton County Road Commission as well. We couldn't just name a firm, so they had to go through that competitive process to find the appropriate firm.
So the money's not touching our books?
No, it's not. It will all
Got
come
it,
through
okay.
Clinton County Road Commission.
That makes sense. Is there any likelihood that that project would happen at the same time as Webster?
It is possible. The time frame looks like it will be moving through 2025 and possibly into 2026. So it is possible that that work would occur at the same time.
Is there any way we could make it less possible?
All I can say is the Clinton County Road Commission and our staff, including Miles and our assessor and Prine and Newhoff, are all working very diligently together to make sure that this has the least amount of impact on our residents. And so there will be communication plans and us pushing information out to our residents so they understand where they can travel and where they cannot travel during those peak times of construction, So we understand the frustration of it happening at the same time, but are also working very hard to make sure everybody understands how they can get in and out of our community for work or other things that they're trying to do, and to make sure that it doesn't impact potentially voting, as I mentioned last time we were talking about Webster Road.
As you know, I work in downtown Lansing, and there's construction everywhere, and sometimes I literally don't know how to get home.
I understand that.
And I find myself in some strange neighborhood going, I don't know where I am, I don't know how to get home.
We are gonna work very hard. The Clinton County Road Commission, we have fantastic communication with them, and they are a very willing partners in both of these projects. So I think we will work very hard together to make sure that our residents go through as little as frustration as possible.
Great, I know people will be appreciative of that.
I think they will be too. I don't think it will be completely without frustration, but I do think we will try to minimize it the best that we can.
Other questions about Chandler Road?
What is the non-motorized component going to be
So
for
there is, an aspect of that we can, I think the Chandler Road has long been used as a bike, path, on the side of the road. We understand that that is not safe in its current format. The shoulders are not wide enough. The traffic is also moving at a high rate of speed. So there is an element of making it safer for people that are walking. So we have a lot of students in that area, walking or biking in that area to be safer as they do that. And then there's also an opportunity for us to connect down by the student housing, for us to connect into an East Lansing trail. So we are looking at that connectability and trying to ensure that we can help our people get around if that's what they choose to do with that non-motorized aspect.
That's a great question.
You're welcome.
The 10 million that was appropriated by the legislature, is that enough? Will we have to pitch in anything?
At this time, that was one of the reasons we looked at the other proposal and decided that it was more focused on the road, and that road would take up much of that money, and that we would need to probably put more into the project. The Prine and Newhoff proposal was more balanced in its approach to both sewer, road, and non-motorized, and so the likelihood would be minimal. I can't say zero, but I can say it would be minimal. So we're hoping that as the project moves along, it does stay within budget, but we would know that, I think, sooner than later, working with Prine and Newhoff and the Road Commission.
That's great. I'm meeting with Senator Singh on Wednesday, and I will pass along our thanks.
Yes, please do.
Another time.
Yes.
Any other questions on Chandler? Great, thank you, Superintendent.
Thank you.
That brings us to item 14, new business. We have a couple of items under introduction discussion. The first is the fee schedule from our planner again.
So I'm not gonna put anything on the board or on the TV, because I think, the proposed fee schedule is in your packet. But I have a copy of some of the changes that we made, or we're proposing at least. So let me get to that real quick. Okay, as often happens, the world around us, I think we all realize things are getting more expensive. You know, we are incurring those costs in the planning department. We incur those costs when we go through our escrow and our development reviews. When we send it out for an agency review, for example, we send it to Prine and Newhoff, the township engineer, to review. And then they send a bill saying, you know, we've conducted the review for, like, let's say, the I development. Our review costs $900. Currently, we take in a $3,000 escrow and then pay out those reviews out of said escrow, that way it's not on the backs of the taxpayer. What's happening now is these companies and agencies that do these reviews have raised their costs now, and our escrow is depleted within days of launching the agency review. And then unfortunately, our treasurer and her staff are following up, hey, now we're just doing direct billing, we don't have the account set up, and now we're spending more and more staff time. So it's become apparent that we need to up our escrow amounts that we're taking in for these developments kind of drastically. We'll still take in an initial amount of $2,000 is what we're proposing, but we'll max it out at $10,000. So we're upping it by quite a bit. That's because costs have gone up from 2020 to 2024. I think we've all realized costs have gone up a lot. And if you have been in the construction side of things, engineering costs the inflation on engineering costs are large. So another one we're looking at is a increase in the text amendment fee. We just had some larger text amendments come in, larger than what I thought, and the amount of staff time and planning commission time and board of trustee time that have gone into deliberating and analyzing these text amendments, I think isn't reflected in how much we're charging for those text amendments. And I think a way to think about this fee schedule is what we're attempting to do is, or our philosophy is, we want almost a direct cost for these goods and services that we're mostly working with commercial developers on. We want them to incur the whole cost of the activities that they're seeking through the township. We don't want a developer of, let's just say, and I'm not saying this happened, but, you know, a hardware store in Bath Township. We don't want that development to be subsidized by the general taxpayer. We want that development to incur the costs that, it took for them to get all the way through this process that's been set up. So, again, you know, the first one is the escrow cost, the second one is, the text amendment. And then what else we got on here? And for now, I think that's it.
Are you gonna, the special use permit one?
Which one?
You're changing the escrow amount there too, besides the.
Yeah,
rezoning.
yeah, it's a escrow amount for the special use permit and for the site plan review. When something requires a site plan review and a special use permit, we don't set up two escrows, we take in one escrow. But if it's just a special use permit, we'll take in, you know, a escrow for that. If it's just a site plan review, take in an escrow for that.
Where is the text amendment? Which page is that?
That is on the first page, it's after there's rezoning is category 1, text amendment is category 2. And it was
Jeez.
$250 before, and we're upping it by $50, up to $300.
Thank you. I was looking at the tiny text, not the big text.
Yeah, we kind of reorganized while we were at it and doing it, we kind of reorganized it, because there's a lot of fees and stuff going on, we thought this read a little bit, the planning commission liked it this way, so we did it.
You didn't show an increase?
No, it's in your packet, you have a clean copy. So the only increases are the escrow amount and the text amendment. Everything else remains what the cost is currently.
Okay.
If you could, what was the escrow amount before?
Before the escrow amount, we would take in 1,500 and we had a max of 3,500. Now we're asking to take in an initial amount of 2,000 with a max of 10,000.
And you make the decision where in that spread you would assess.
So we always just take in the initial amount of 2,000. When the 2,000 is depleted, we require another installment of 2,000 up to
okay.
10,000. That's the problem right now. We were doing that before. We take in the 1.5 and it would cover like 2 bills. Then we get that other 1,500 and now we're just directly billing. Jen's running around trying to, how much does your agency need? Okay, let's get the bill together. Let's send it out to the applicant. It's obviously a bill, so they're in no rush to pay it. The escrow account is nice because the money's already there. We're just drawing from it.
And there's no situation where it would exceed 10,000?
No, it could go over 10,000, but for now, we felt like that was a realistic number of where on the high end it might be. As I typically do, if we are seeing, you know, an increase past that, we come back in a year's time. In my time here, I've updated the fees, or I've proposed to update the fee schedule 3 times. That's been accepted 3 times. I've been here just over 3 years, so it's a once a year thing. We're usually coming back and saying, this is what we're seeing, this is what the market's reflecting. It's always my belief that our fees should reflect the marketplace.
Do you have to have a maximum?
Yeah, cause you need to tell people you know, I think it's important to be upfront with the developer and be like, hey, we're only taking this much up to that dollar amount. I think it's transparent. I don't think legally we would have to. I mean, I guess that's a question for.
But if there's a situation in which it could be more than 10,000, you're not gonna not take the money, right?
No, we wouldn't take the money. We'd start billing directly. That's the problem where we're
Oh,
now.
so it wouldn't be in the escrow account anymore, it would be direct bill,
Yeah,
got
by
it,
our ordinance, we're not allowed to do that. We've exceeded what our ordinance allows.
got it.
When we amend this fee schedule, we're in turn amending that within our ordinance.
Yeah, I guess I still don't understand then how the maximum would be helpful, if you're just taking 2,000 in chunks.
Was just transparent to the developer saying, you know, this is the most you can expect that we would take, and then after this, we'll bill directly.
Yeah, I mean, it sort of communicates the most we'll take is 10,000, which is true for the escrow account, but it's not the most we would take actually from them.
Yeah, if it exceeds that, yeah.
Yeah. Alright,
And that, I guess that's kind of just so you know, though, it's not like the developer is blindsided, like, let's say they reached that $10,000 cap and now they're getting a bill directly, and they're like, we gave them when we do the pre-application meeting, so we bring in the developer, they sit down with myself, the fire marshal, somebody from the superintendent's office, or the superintendent herself, the building official, the zoning administrator, we lay out this entire process, and in that process that we lay out, a point of discussion is the escrow account, how it works, the payment installments, the max, and then what happens if that max is exceeded. So it's transparent, they see the bills, they know what's going on. And it is on the commercial side only that this applies, so typically your commercial developer is very familiar with this process, this isn't like unique to that township.
Yeah, I mean, I think the transparency makes sense, but really what you're gonna charge them is whatever it costs.
Whatever the marketplace costs, the escrow just makes it easier for us to administrate the process.
Yeah, I mean, I would consider getting rid of the maximum.
Yeah, just-
Because then if you hit the maximum, you're still doing this stuff with the treasurer, it still gets us to where we don't wanna be.
I think that's a good point, I mean, that's something.
So I
that
was gonna
can-
offer, if I may, either elimination of the maximum or an asterisk that indicates once you pass this point of currency that you'll be direct billed.
Yeah, I mean, I would encourage the first, get rid of the maximum and say something about, we'll take it in $2,000 chunks.
Is that something we could explore, are you fine if we explore that with legal counsel? Cause I've always seen a maximum being placed on these, so I'd like to just.
No, I wanna roll the dice on this
Okay.
one.
I don't believe that.
Yeah, of course,
Okay.
of course.
Brian?
Go ahead.
Can I ask a question? So if you're gonna get rid of the maximum, there would be, at what point would you turn to make it direct billing then? You just keep billing the 2,000 escrow forever?
Well,
Or,
I think that's why the maximum is somewhat transparent, cause that at least it sets a cap on how escrows can be billed. But yeah, in theory, we wouldn't bill it forever, we bill it till whenever our costs are covered that we incurred through the agency review process.
okay,
But you're already gonna do that.
If we need to at this point.
Right.
The 10,000 mark is on the high end of where we think this could go, so hopefully we wouldn't be in that situation, which we currently are often.
What's the more typical scenario that the developer maxes out their escrow and they get directly billed, or they don't reach the maximum that they've put into the escrow and they get refunded? What is
So when
probably
I
the
first
more
got here, we were
common?
when I first got here, the max was $3,000, and we were doing refunds, there'd be, $500 left in the escrow account, we never see that.
So the billing is more common?
Yeah, sounds like it.
I mean,
Yeah.
when I first got here in 2021, probably Newhoff's agency reviews were in the 200 or 300s, now they're like in the 7 to 1,000.
Oh, jeez.
Projects are bigger though. I mean, we've had a lot of commercial projects.
Oh, but, yeah, we have of all scales.
Al, you had your hand up?
Yeah, what does other townships charge for their maximum?
So it's all over the place. Yeah, I mean, it really is with escrows, it's all over the place. I mean, we looked obviously at townships around us, so some will take in smaller dollar amounts and have higher maximums.
But they all have a maximum.
I typically have always seen a maximum. But that's why I wanna ask legal if it's something that's required, cause I don't know, we've just been doing what's typical.
Yeah, cause technically it's not a fee, right? We're just holding their money for their project and using it for their project.
And if they ever wanted accountability through that, it's all publicly available. I mean, it's just bills they can FOIA, but we give it to them upon request. Hey, here's the bills that have come in, here's the account we're paying it out of.
Okay. Other questions, thoughts? You'll have a planning commission meeting before our next meeting, so if you wanted to discuss any of these things, you could take it back to them.
Yeah.
That's not me directing you to take it back to them, but if you wanted to talk about it with them.
I think even your direction here to investigate the maximum is enough that we can do that at this point
Okay.
and then bring it back. We're just introing it tonight to you guys.
Okay. And Kate, if you wanted to bring it up, since you're the rep.
Sure.
Any other questions? This is really helpful. Thank you. Miles?
Yep.
while we're talking about fee schedules, we have some other fee schedules that the township uses. Are we looking at those the same way that the planner is looking at his?
We are. We have, staff has done some research on some other fees that come from the clerk's office, and some other fees will additionally be researched. We intend to bring those to you in the next couple of months. Those are not ready at this time.
Great, I'm glad you're looking at that, thanks.
Yes, thank you.
All right, 14, big A, little b, updated PACE program. We have John Wiley here, who is Senior Counsel of the Lean and Green Michigan. Please help yourself up to the lectern.
Thanks for having me. Like you said, John Wiley with Lean and Green Michigan. I'm Senior Counsel. We are currently the administrator for the PACE program, Bath Township. There's been some amendments to the PACE statute at the state level. So we've been road tripping the state for the past couple months and going to different jurisdictions and updating the programs. So I do want to do just a little bit of background information on PACE. The Bath Township PACE program predates my time with Lean and Green Michigan, so I can't recall who was here at that time.
Most of us were not.
Perfect. So I'm going to do a short introduction. Unfortunately, a short introduction to PACE usually just leads to a lot of questions, but that's usually the best way to do it, is give you an overview, let people inquire. But I do want to touch specifically on what those amendments are, what's changed, and what we've updated. So just a real quick background on us. Lean and Green Michigan is just 4 of us, so anytime you interact with Lean and Green Michigan, it's going to be one of us 4. Oh, this says me as associate counsel. I've recently got a promotion, so now I'm senior counsel.
Congratulations.
It's a promotion in name only. So Todd Williams is our president and general counsel. So as our names reflect, me and him handle the legal work. Mary Freeman's the owner of the company. She does a lot of the outreach, so I believe she was the one first coordinating with Karen. Mary is currently in South Korea, so that's why I am here. And then Megan Ross is our communications and business associate. She handles a lot of the intake of new projects, works with people who reach out directly to us about inquiring about PACE, and then kind of brings it along if it looks like a viable project. She also goes around the state and does a lot of kind of trade show stuff. I think she was in Boyne for the NELA conference. I can't remember what NELA stands for, but last week. So she does a lot of that. So if you guys have any events in this area, we'll definitely send someone up. So like I said, PACE is regulated by the PACE statute in Michigan, which is Public Act 270 of 2010, but it requires for a PACE program to be active for a local jurisdiction to set it up. That can be a county, a city, a township, a village. I don't know if I'm missing any other thing. We work a lot with counties just because it's the largest structure in Michigan. Obviously here we're working with a township. We have a lot of cities, a lot of townships. There's a quick map of where we cover a lot of green space, but a lot of white space as well. But the green space does reflect over 75% of the population in Michigan. So, obviously, as you can expect when it comes to commercial development, we work in a lot of population dense areas, which I know this is the second most in Clinton County, correct?
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Not St. John's, who is also is a member. So PACE was brought about to address the problem of kind of, when you think of public policy, there's a lot of like carrot and the stick things, and we see a lot with energy efficiency and saving water and saving energy. How can we promote it? Well, one way is obviously to just regulate it and say you have to put this in, you have to put that in. But another way is to encourage it through kind of more holistic uses, PACE being one of those. So PACE is a financing mechanism for energy efficiency upgrades. The problem with energy efficiency upgrades is when you have a building and someone says, just replace all your windows, it'll save you a bunch of energy. Well, that's really expensive, really time consuming. And there's the options to do that. Maybe you're taking out another mortgage on the property, taking out a small business loan. But a lot of those times, by the time you have to pay back that loan, you haven't seen the benefits yet. You're going to save energy, but it's going to be reflected over a long period of time. So that's where PACE comes in and allows financing for those items to be stretched out over a long period of time. So when we come to the PACE process, there's a few parties involved, and that's why I'm here to talk with you guys. We have the property owner and the contractor doing the work. We have a private third-party lender, so all the money that gets lent through PACE through its financing is from private lenders around the country. It's probably 12 to 15 really active PACE lenders we work with, and that's all they do is they lend money through PACE. There's Clean and Green Michigan, LAGM, as you'll see it stylized. We act as the program administrator, and then we have the local units of government, and they first of all help set up the program, and then ultimately the local unit of government will be the one approving the program and actually placing the special assessment. So, like I was talking, the problem with making these energy efficiency upgrades is they're really expensive upfront, and you won't see the benefits for a long period of time. So PACE allows the property owner to voluntarily enter into a special assessment and have that special assessment placed on their property. In turn, they get a loan from a private financer, and that private financer in turn gets that special assessment as a security interest for the loan. So it allows them to have a comfortable security interest for a long-term loan with a fixed rate. Most of the loans we see are 20 to 25 years. The max is 25 years. There's also some implications of the types of improvements you're making, but usually we see them about 20 to 25 years. It allows the property owner to borrow money 100% upfront. There's no equity requirement like you see in some programs. They can get 100% of the cost, do the project, and then they'll pay back over that 20 to 25 years. The nice part for the local unit of government is that in Michigan, we don't require the money to go through the local unit of government and then get paid out to the lender. We allow the lender to direct bill. So that's a big sticking point is it gonna make a bunch more work for the treasurer, the assessors? It shouldn't, that's the goal. The lender will directly bill, the borrower will directly pay back the lender. Only in the instance of a default would then the local unit of government get involved and actually place and that as a delinquent assessment on the property. So the point and the design of the projects is to be cost efficient over the long period of time. So while yes, those windows might cost $1 million right now, the goal is that you will see $1 million plus much more in savings over the life of the windows. Technology's come a long ways with really simple things like glazing the outside of glass, LED lights, improvements to water and toilets and sinks, and just making those improvements, you'll see a lot of utility cost savings over, and I'm sure as everyone knows, utility prices are only going up. So you'll getting the improvements in now and saving over a long period of time. The goal is that these projects much exceed the original cost in savings. There are a few kind of program guidelines and statutory guidelines that keep these programs or keep the loans kind of in check. We do look at a loan to value with property values of about 25%. So you can't borrow, if you're building construction's $5 million, you can't borrow it all through PACE. There's just that 25% chunk that you can borrow. Frankly, you're not ever going to be able to finance a full project through PACE and ground up new build because there's things that won't qualify because it has to be energy savings, but also there's that 25% loan to value cap in place. For the borrower, another advantageous thing, it's fixed rate for a long period of time, but it's fixed to the land because it's a tax assessment. So if someone wants to improve their building, do a ground up new construction project, they take out a PACE loan and in 5 years they want to sell, legally the new borrower or the new buyer would take over that PACE loan and start paying back. The reason for that is because all the improvements are fixtures to the land, it's improving the value of the building. Now in practice, as you can imagine, a lot of buyers don't want to do that, so there's a lot of negotiation at the buying table, at the closing table, whether it's a reduced cost or a payoff at that time. But if everyone's on board with it, the new buyer just takes on the PACE assessment, it gets assigned to them and they start paying off like they would any other special assessment. I mentioned, new builds and retrofits, so qualified properties. The important thing to know about Michigan PACE is it's C-PACE, commercial PACE. That's different from our PACE or residential PACE. So in Michigan, we can only do commercial properties. Now we can do residential properties. They have to be commercial in nature and 4 units and above. So that means owned by one person, rental units, and it has to be 4 units or above, or some sort of mixed use. So in theory, it could be a downtown building that's got 2 storefronts and 2 units above. It's mixed use, it's commercial, all owned by the same person, they rent it out. So anything you think of typically with commercial buildings, hotels, restaurants, office buildings, a lot of senior living. A lot of those are getting built around Michigan these days. Multifamily. It could also be used for agricultural properties, farms, wineries. And then also an important distinction, it is a tax assessment, but it can be used by nonprofits. It's voluntarily entered, although they don't pay property taxes, they can still voluntarily enter into the special assessment. Some of the PACE qualifying upgrades. So kind of the umbrella thing we look at is utility savings. There's some specific cost saving items laid out in the statute, and then there's kind of a catch-all term at the end. This is anything that can reduce a utility. So you think your utilities are energy, gas, water. Then some municipalities, and I'm not 100% sure on Bath Township, you guys have a like runoff or drainage fee? Okay, so some municipalities have, a stormwater drainage fee where they measure the permeable area of your land and charge you a stormwater drainage fee. Detroit has one. So in those municipalities, we can look more directly at those. But here we're looking at lighting, HVAC, building insulation's a big one, roof, windows, like I said, low flow toilets, low flow sinks. And then on the other end of things, we're looking at renewable energy. So anything that's renewable in nature, solar roofs, wind, geothermal, or anaerobic digesters is specifically outlined. So if there's a meat facility around here that wants to put all their scrap meat into an anaerobic digester and generate energy, have them call me. And then one of the new things I'll get into a little bit in a second is environmental hazards. So while this doesn't save energy, kind of fits the purpose of the PACE program, so mitigation of lead or PFAS, and protection against severe weather. Also, one thing that's specifically outlined in the statute, although it doesn't necessarily save energy, it's again kind of part of the overall theme of PACE. EV charging is allowed. That's usually kind of an add-on to a project, is you want to finance a few EV chargers. So the reason why I'm here, updating the PACE program, the Bath Township PACE program, is because these amendments passed in February 2024. Senate Bill 302 and 303. So one big thing I already touched on is it allows PACE to be expanded for environmental hazards, mitigation of PFAS and lead in drinking water, potable water, and then also mitigation of effects of flood or drought, increased resilience of the property against severe weather. This is a move in PACE we've seen in some other states. There's a lot of property owners that want to take advantage of it. It's also good in the sense that PACE was kind of originally intended to help rehab buildings, bring them up to code and everything. We've seen it kind of shift more towards new construction and making the new construction more energy efficient. But if you look at the grand scale of things, it's much more green and energy efficient to renovate an existing building than it is to build a new one. It always is going to be. So allowing PACE to be used for some of these environmental hazard cleanup things. When you go into an old office building, an old apartment building, an old industrial building, you're going to run into PFAS, you're going to run into lead, paint and pipes and everything. So allowing it to be used for that. The resiliency aspect of it, we've seen in some other states, especially coastal states, flooding, those types of things. So allowing properties to be regraded, or like seawalls or things to be put up to help prevent flooding in the area. The other big change is a change to the savings to investment ratio and savings guarantee. So the savings to investment ratio was established in the Michigan statute, and it meant that the utility savings, or the savings had to outweigh the cost by a ratio of at least is greater than 1. So if you spent $1 million on a PACE project, you had to save at least $1 million in 1 penny. That could be utility savings, O&M savings. We see a lot with like parking lots. If you install LEDs, they last a lot longer. You don't have to go replace them as often. You can count that in the savings. And then the really kind of restrictive part that we found was that originally it was implemented, there had to be a guarantee made by a third party, typically the contractor or some developer, that was going to happen. Legally, there's not a lot of people who want to make a guarantee for 25 years. If you're a contractor and you're 60 years old, you can be 85 by the time that the contract expires. It's not something people really want to do. And on the flip side, we found property owners didn't really want to do it too much, because a lot of times it was a huge added cost. Because you're making this legal guarantee for 25 years, sometimes it'd be 1 or 2% of project cost So you're talking on a couple $1 million project, a couple tens of thousands of dollars to get these guarantees. Property owners wanted the improvements, but they realized, who's to say what's gonna happen in 20, 25 years? The guarantee's not that important to me. So the new bill allows the property owner to waive that guarantee on retrofit projects, and that guarantee no longer exists on new construction projects. The new requirement for new construction projects is any measure that's gonna be financed through PACE has to be built above the Michigan Energy Code. So Michigan Energy Code has an R value requirement for insulation, roofing, so anything implemented and using PACE financing has to be built above that. That's all looked at and examined and charted by an energy auditor, an ASHRAE certified energy auditor. That's one of the reports that we get, and we review with the property owner and everyone to confirm all that. Another exciting thing that happened kind of just coincidentally with this that I can update you guys on is that I believe we are the second or third PACE program to get HUD approval. Originally, HUD did not want to work with PACE. The reason being because PACE is a tax assessment, it has the same legal standing as a tax assessment, which means it has priority over a first lien mortgage. So HUD did not want to have any HUD projects also had PACE portions on it. Now that PACE is a decade or so older, the dust has kind of settled. It's been thoroughly vetted. We've done just about 80 projects in Michigan. We were able to apply to HUD to get approval. We had to get a letter from the Attorney General, jump through a bunch of hoops. But we have that approval now. So now if there's a project in anywhere in Michigan that has HUD financing, they can also look to use PACE for another source of financing. A little bit of market data on what we've done. So like I said, we have 79 projects that we've done. I believe we have 6 this year already. So it's not a huge thing. It's not, we're not gonna be banging down your guys' door every week with a new PACE project. But it is really great to have it as a tool. When a developer comes and they say what's available, especially with the increasing popularity of PACE, one question that we pose is, are you guys a PACE district? Do you have PACE accessible? So it's good to have it available. And just in private investment, almost 300 million, we're getting there. We're hoping we'll hit it this year. It was just last year, 2 years ago, we hit 200 million, so it's really kind of been an exponential growth in Michigan in total. So that's all private dollars coming in from mostly out-of-state investors, really, through the PACE program. And you can see here, I mean, the amount of, when you see these energy audits, it's incredible the amount of savings you can have by just tweaking, in a 50-unit apartment building, if you change the toilets, they go from 1 gallon per flush to 0.3 gallons per flush. Over 25 years, it's an incredible amount of water savings. Then when you look at dollars saved and everything, it's an extraordinary amount just by these simple changes. And having access to PACE financing is potentially what pushed these people over the line to make those changes instead of just going with the cheapest, lowest quality option. So we really look at PACE as a way, for the jurisdiction not to only get economic development, but make sure every building is just built a little bit better, a little bit more efficient, and not just the lowest possible quality. So my info's here. Email me, give me a phone call or anything, and then especially if there's people, interested developers who come to you guys, it's always great to get them in contact with us. What we'll do is take them from point A to about Y maybe, and then we'll need you guys to step in and help finalize the project, because ultimately it's township approval and township signature. But we'll help hook them up with lenders, with energy auditors, with people helping design the project. People come to us at kind of any stage, whether it's they're just about to start construction, all of a sudden there's a financing gap, how can we obtain PACE, do we have to redesign the project, are we already designed in a way, or people who are just at the very beginning, and we can get them involved with people who can really help them maximize their savings through improvements. There's certain improvements that are really pretty cheap and do a lot of energy savings. Light sensors are a big one, lighting controls we call them. There's a lot of code requirements around lighting in stairwells and things for hotels. If you can put a sensor on those lights, they go from running 24/7 all year to running maybe a couple hours a week. So I'll open up for questions just about the PACE program in general or about the changes. Happy to answer anything I can. And thanks for having me again.
We don't currently have any projects here in Bath, right?
You've had two projects.
We have.
Yes.
Yes, the NOCA project, NOCA 1 and NOCA 2, those are on
Chandler.
Chandler, yep. There's been a few other property owners that are interested, given, the proximity to East Lansing and everything. A few that have gotten pretty far and then kind of petered away for whatever reason. We expect they may come back, developers we've worked with in the past. Market conditions aren't like excellent right now for new construction. It's been surprisingly resilient. We've had quite a few projects and hasn't really slowed down, but we've definitely seen quite a few people who are just like, I'm gonna wait a little while. Some, that's a poor decision because they said that back in July and they're like, I'm just gonna wait for interest rates to drop, and here they are, they're, a year later and haven't started yet, so.
Yeah, I think Park Lake Apartments is the other development that was interested in using the program, but they've decided to wait on building.
What's Park Lake Apartments?
At the end of Park Lake and Webster, they were
Across
gonna
from the church.
add,
Oh, Hawks Ridge.
I think in front of Hawks Ridge.
Yeah.
yeah, so there were, I think, 2 or 3 proposed buildings, but they're waiting currently for the market conditions to improve.
Okay.
Yeah, and if I recall correctly, we were pretty far along with that project
I think you
actually,
were.
and I think, for whatever reason,
We were as well.
Just stopped.
Other questions from folks?
Mr. Wiley, those mostly out-of-state lenders, private lenders, could you just give me like 2 or 3 names of them? Do you know who they are?
yeah, absolutely. So, probably off the top of my head, like the 5 or 6 that we work with the most, there's a group out of Minnesota called Pace Loan Group. Their COO is actually our former CEO, so he left Lean and Green to go work in other parts of the PACE industry. We have actually quite a few members of Lean and Green that have gone to work for other PACE lenders. Petros PACE Financing is out of Austin, Texas. PACE Equity out of Milwaukee. And then there was a smaller operation called Greenworks Lending. They got kind of absorbed into Nuveen, which is a pretty big financial institution. They're part of TIA CREP. So, and I say out of state, there's just not a local PACE lender. We've actually talked to a lot of local banks and credit unions about getting involved with PACE, specifically because the PACE market's heated up so much that these larger lenders only want to lend for 1 million or above, or 5 million or above, or some are even like 10 million or above. We have a lot of projects that come through our doors that are, need $250,000 to do an HVAC system. 5 years ago, we would have been able to get them a loan, no problem. Now the market's changed a little bit, so we do need to fill that gap for smaller lenders. So we are really, really engaged with local lenders, credit unions, banks, about being involved with PACE. It's just kind of a learning curve.
So I'll be careful how I ask this next question. So those on your, I'll call it your board, are they on the board of or affiliated with any of these lenders in any way?
No. Yeah, it's just us 4, that's our full-time job, that's all we do, is PACE. Our president and general counsel came from another administrator down in Ohio. He was part of the, he's gonna kill me because I don't know the exact name of it, but the Toledo PACE program. He helped design that PACE program through the Port Authority, came up to work with us in Michigan. I started this a couple years ago, not with no previous experience in PACE, but yeah, it's a pretty small community nationwide, to be honest. So we know the lenders pretty well. The lenders know working with us pretty well. So it's nice to have direct communication with them all the time.
Thank you.
Other questions?
I got one.
Oh, go ahead, Al.
So your interest rate is the going rate that is charged, that you don't get them a cheaper rate?
No, not normally. So the rates are usually based off the 10-year treasury yield. So there is at least one lender who has a subsidized rate program if you meet certain requirements, and they go kind of above and beyond what PACE typically requires. I can't say off the top of my head because it's a brand new product, but most of the lenders are lending based off the 10-year. So it's, we're very upfront with people right at the beginning when we talk about it. It's a great program to have available, but it's not a plug and play for every single situation. It works really well with a lot of people. It works really well to replace other types of financing that may be higher leverage or shorter term with a balloon payment at the end. But a lot of people will say, well, I can get a grant from Eagle or something to do the same thing. Why would I use PACE instead? And we say, definitely go get that grant, get the free money, and do the project. let us know if there's any future, needs. Same thing with, a lot of times we'll talk with large companies and, they'll get through the process and then they'll kind of be, let me shut this down for you. They'll say that they can get, a lower interest rate with their bank, and we say, definitely go with the lower interest rate if you can get it.
You're not gonna get into, houses? You're gonna stay in commercial?
Yes, that's the way the statute's written, so residential PACE would have to be a whole new bill. Frankly, it's a whole different world when it, with residential PACE, it's super high volume, low dollar amounts. There's a whole different lending community that needs to be involved with it. Think more like, Rocket Mortgage or something. And frankly, it is, not super complicated. It operates a lot like a loan, but a lot like a commercial loan. So you're working with commercial property owners that have legal counsel and everything. It's a lot more sophisticated. It's not overly complicated, but we definitely, us four, don't have the capacity to do 10,000 residential PACE loans in Michigan, and we really have no desire to at this time. There's other programs. We work with Michigan Saves. That does residential programs, so if someone calls us and they have a home and they want to use PACE, we say, unfortunately, we don't have residential PACE, but here's another great program to use with Michigan Saves.
Mr. O'Boyle works for Michigan Saves, right?
I'm sorry?
Mr. O'Boyle, the Webster, Webster Road issue that we see routinely, doesn't he work for Michigan Saves?
It's my understanding he worked for a firm in Lansing, but I can't say that that's
PSC.
accurate.
That's
Okay.
where Michigan
Yes.
Saves is parked at.
Okay, I'm sorry for the disconnect.
No, that's okay. It was a deep cut.
I'm glad you knew Michigan Saves. Yeah, they do a lot of residential stuff.
These are great questions. Other questions? So this is for discussion this week, and I anticipate you're asking us to take action in,
The resolution will be,
June?
yes, available to you at your next regular meeting.
okay.
And just as a reminder for that, it is an amendment. So we've updated everyone with the updated program report, but it's an amendment to the existing program. We're happy to come back up if there's any more discussion. I don't know how you guys handle it administratively where on the agenda, but if you want anyone else to come up and do a presentation, me, myself, or someone else from the team. So.
I think that's fine. Unless folks feel like we need more information, I don't think we do we? I was just looking at my calendar to see when that is. June 3rd is our next meeting.
Awesome. Yeah, just let us know. We're happy to come up. Like I said, we've been all over right now, so we're getting our mileage in for the year.
Great.
Thanks. I appreciate it.
Are you driving an EV car?
What's that?
Are you driving an EV car?
No,
Ouch.
Yeah, I know. That's why I said we need to get a company EV car. Mary has a Bolt, and it's actually let me drive it for the first time. It was the first time I ever drove one. It's pretty weird. I don't know if you guys have driven one. They have like some sort of braking thing where you use like the weight of the car to brake, so you like can't coast at all. So it's supposed to help because, sorry, this is like off the pace now, but one of the problems with the EV cars is they're so heavy, and it caused the brake pads to wear more often, which is like a pollutant, and tires to wear down more often. So it has this thing where you don't have to use the brakes as much, but it's like, it's weird. You accelerate super fast and you just come to a dead stop. When you take your foot off the gas, I'll see if it's in the budget for next year.
Great. Thanks, John.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up is new business items for action. We've got 2 items for action. First is the summer solstice event. We have Judy Gardy here from Friends of Park Lake. And there wasn't anything in the...
There was no
Oh, okay,
announcement.
okay. Whenever you're ready, Judy.
Good evening, Judy Gardy, Friends of Park Lake. Nice to see you all tonight. As I was looking across the table, I realized that many of you probably haven't been to a summer solstice event, so I'll just give you a little background. Friends of Park Lake started celebrating the summer solstice 9 years ago. We do an event that celebrates Park Lake and all of the beauty that it brings to us, not only in the summer, but throughout the whole year. We have MSU Extension Fisheries and also Dan Hayes from the Michigan State University Fisheries Department at the boat launch, and they have this huge net, and families and their kids are down there and they throw this huge net into the lake and they pull it out and see everything that they find in the net. They put it on a table and they describe it, and whether it's an invasive weed or a regular weed or a frog or a fish, it doesn't matter. And the families really like that. But so we do use the boat launch area during the event. And then in Wishwasher Park, we have, this year we're having line dancing and balloon twisters. The Beekeepers Association from the region will have some inflatables down there. The library will be there, the Audubon Society, the Bird Observatory, and maybe you don't know it, but we have in Bath Township for the state of Michigan, a bird banding station. Like 79% of the migratory birds of the birds that migrate into Michigan come through Bath Township, which is just pretty phenomenal. And so they band out there, and it's really a fun place to go. So we have these people come to the park and talk about their work out there. The Rose Lake Conservation District will be there. We'll have a couple of food trucks, a band. So it's an event that starts about 5 o'clock in the afternoon and goes through. Old Lake Trust Credit Union is going to be there, and Court 1 with an obstacle course. Starts at 5 o'clock in the afternoon and goes till about 10. That's when the park closes. It is the first day of summer, so we have a really long night that day. But by 10 o'clock, everyone's out of the park. We've had between 200 and 700 people attend the event, so it's very popular. And now because we don't have bath days, this kind of takes its place as a community-wide celebration. The township has been happy to assist us in the past. So we are, again, this year asking if we could borrow 10 tables and 15 chairs and 3 canopies and 6 barricades and 4 cones. We also would like to be on your liability insurance policy for a day. We would like permission to hang banners down at the park, you know, that say summer celebration, summer solstice party, and also permission to place advertising in realtor boxes. You know, you could pick you'll go to a house that's for sale and you can open the box and there'll be something written about that house. Well, we'd like to have those at Wishwasher Park and at the beach, you know, before the event, some flyers about the event. We also need to be able to park cars in Wishwasher Park down where the Gupta property, where you bought the Gupta property. We've parked there for years, and Ben says this year the ground is solid and he's not worried about it, and so if he could help us designate the area, that would be good for him and for us. That would be wonderful. And then assistance with publicity. You have a newsletter that it would be great if we could, you know, put some promo in that, and then also on the electronic sign the day or the day before, the day of or the day before the event. That would be great. So that's the kind of help that we need from you, and we'd greatly appreciate your partnership as we do every year in the event. And I'm sure that we can work with Karen, but in order to move forward, we need your approval. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Sorry, I didn't want to interrupt you. Specific to the board, you need to approve the full use of the boat launch in Westwasser Park, and then as well the sponsorship. The other items are in the purview of the superintendent, and I can authorize those for the advertising and the signage.
What do you mean by sponsorship?
So if you sponsor the event, we are able to fill out a rider on our insurance that doesn't cost us anything. We found out several years ago, we used the same insurance company for the rider, and it doesn't cost us anything additional. So I'll work with our insurance company, which is the David Chapman Agency, to make sure there's insurance coverage on the event, liability insurance coverage.
So that's not no financial sponsorship?
No, it's just
sort of spiritual?
Yes.
Okay. And then
if you'd like to think of insurance as spiritual.
No, the sponsorship is spiritual, the insurance is real. You said use of boat launch and use of the park?
Yes, full use.
Normally, we would charge people for that?
Well, normally, it's not just that. It's like when people rent the Westwasser Park, they're only renting the pavilion. So this allows full use of both of those parks for them, including parking and full use, so electricity and other things. So I would just say full use of those facilities.
And no one else has any of those facilities booked?
That's correct. We try to make sure that that is correct. Judy usually books those well in advance, and so.
January?
Yes, so there's no conflicts for those.
Judy, did you mention the date? I didn't write it down.
It's Thursday, June the 20th. I mean, we will need both water and electricity here.
And what time?
5 to 10.
5 to 10. Thank you. All right, so this is an item for action tonight. Go ahead, Al.
I move we help the summer socialists, and with their insurance and everything else that we normally do.
I will second that.
There's a motion and a second, and just to be clear, we're talking about the liability insurance, we're talking about the boat launch, use of the park, and the other items requested. All right, other questions, discussion?
I've been in the past, it's a nice event.
Yeah, me too. Any concerns on your part?
None.
Great. What did we decide? Roll call or?
I would recommend a roll call.
Okay. Oh, look, I wrote that. All right, we'll take a roll call vote then.
Okay. Trustee Phillips?
Yes.
Trustee Kellerman?
Yes.
Treasurer Wilson?
Yes.
Supervisor Funes Bliss?
Yes.
Trustee Rosecrans?
Yes.
Trustee Hagerman?
Yes.
Motion carries, thank you. The last item on our agenda tonight for business is Ide Townhomes 1 point of access. Looks like we're keeping the planner real busy tonight.
All right, so it's kind of an interesting item, so I tried to provide a memo, I tried to keep it as brief as possible, which obviously I'm not very good at, but I did my best. So basically in the memo, there's 3 parts. So there's the context of how we got here, so I'll quickly go over that. Basically, the Ide, development company brought forth a project to the township to review its site plan. We were in that phase now. I didn't talk about that project during the development review because I knew we'd be talking about it now. It was introduced and then it was kicked out for an agency review. Upon the agency review being conducted, the road commission had a flag. So this happens sometimes during the agency review, and my nickname for them is project killers. There was things that come up that can kill a project. This was kind of on that level. However, it was a weird one because the quote-unquote project killer was that this parcel and the proposed land use didn't meet the road commission standard for how many units of housing can be served. And so I guess myself, I had some follow-up questions because this parcel and the road network surrounding it weren't a new creation. And I asked, what is the number of parcels that can be served? That number is 40. Dwelling units can be served with one single access point, which is that Somerset Lane, and then it hooks into Abbey Lane. I said, well, right now, there's 387-ish units of dwelling. How did those get approved? And those were approved in the 2003 to 2007-ish time period, and then finally, I think development concluded in 2014-ish for all those. Was that standard in place at that time? And apparently it was. Apparently the standard's been in place for a long time. So I'm like, okay, well, how did this road network get approved then? And isn't that problematic for the road commission? I think the road commission realized that is problematic. It was the suggestion of the engineers at the road commission that the developer seek a deviation from their normal standards. The developer did that. They went to the road commission board. It seemed like the board realized the circumstances and the issue and what's problematic, but how the situation had developed over time, and seemed supportive of the idea of deviating from the standards given the circumstance. However, they requested the opinion of this body tonight, basically your acknowledgement of the issue, which the acknowledgement would be, yes, lots of housing units, one point of access. We acknowledge that. And then recognizing furthermore that the developer doesn't have the ability to create a second access point. So that's kind of, we'll dive into that now. So that's another bucket of issues that led the road commission to largely being accepting of this situation, and I think largely willing to deviate from their standards, following the opinion of this board. So you'll see that main drive coming into kind of what's called the Somerset complex, which at the very southern end also serves BSNA, which is a fairly large employer. Now the mouse is on Abbey Lane. So that's an emergency turnaround on the south. So I think the first question is, okay, well, why can't that just, that's a road. There's a road not far from there. There's just trees in the way. Like, why can't those roads connect? That's because MDOT limited access easements exist on both sides of that road because of the on and off ramp going up to Food Court Lane. So it is not permitted for a road to tie in anywhere in that area. So that's a no-go. MDOT will flat out not approve it. They have control of the land there. There's nothing that us, the developer, or the road commission can do anything about that. MDOT will not yield to any of our requests there in all of our experience. Then the other question, the only other option was, you know, can they take, if you go to the northern part of Abbey Lane, can they go north? Well, that's problematic because they can't go to the, what was it, the west, because it's bog and swamp, right? So it's cost prohibitive to do that, but you can't go north because you'd have to be going through buildings and parking. And then you can't go east as well because, again, you're going through bog and swamp. So there's no clear path to go that direction. Even if there was a clear path, they don't control the property. They don't control the land. They'd have to be working with another entity that they're in direct competition with, right? Because the I company is seeking to establish units for rental. Why in the world would Somerset Apartment want to help out a competitor in their own backyard? So you can see the conflict. It's problematic, yes, there's one point of entry. What I tried to lay out in that memo briefly was, is it a problem? Yes. Is it the only factor that me as the planner, when I'm thinking about, is this the right spot for this land use? Are roads a factor? Yes. Is it the only factor, or should it be the determinant factor? For me personally, and I'm going into my bias now, so I want to be upfront about that. No, it's not. What we have here is an 18-acre parcel that is flat, has a sandy soil type, which means good drainage. There is public water and public sewer available that's close, so it is sustainable from that viewpoint. It does have good access to on-ramps and off-ramps, and it would be appropriate land use within this area, and it'd be good. And I know it's taboo sometimes to talk about money and the tax base, but the reality is everything costs money, and we all want things. We want Blue Bus, and we want the park, and we want a trail, we want senior services. Those things cost money, and to build services for people, you need a healthy tax base. It's hard to have a healthy tax base when you don't allow for one to exist. So that's as blunt as I can put it, that there are other things to consider. When it comes to the access being problematic, the reason that one access would be problematic is obviously Webster Road construction is going to be a thing, not only in the near future, but forever. Things happen with the sewer system, the water system. Sometimes you have to shut entrances into places down for a period of time while these fixes take place. And that could impact a lot of people here because there's a lot of development units and only one way in and one way out. That is the problematic part of this. Now, can that problem be mitigated through the establishment of a temporary access? So like, let's say Somerset Drive had to be closed down because they're working under it currently. and there is gonna be a period of 2 or 3 weeks where that portion is under construction. At that point, I believe, and I've talked to the road commission, a dirt road could be brought in and gravelled in to provide temporary access in and out of that facility. Another point to this right now, though, is there's so many dwelling units that are relying on Somerset Drive itself. So there's that portion, that last portion of Somerset that splits off to the north. They have easy access right off, but all those other units have to go that very long drive to get to that. If this project was to come in, although it doesn't solve our one access point issue, they are forming a grid pattern of streets within that 18 acres itself. So at least it allows for more options for cars to move within the campus of Somerset. So if there was some kind of construction that had to take place like midway on Somerset, well, now we have an alternative route that we currently don't have. So I feel like it doesn't take away from the risk, but it alleviates it in an area which it currently isn't alleviated. So there's risk.
Yeah.
I talked to the county road commission, he was down here 3 weeks ago, and they have a lot of areas in the county that have the same situation we have.
Mm-hmm.
They're willing to accept this until it's done, and then from now on, they're gonna make 2 exits.
Yeah, I think that is wise. I think when the county is looking at these larger, especially apartment complexes, maybe should be looking for as many points of access as possible. The problem, I guess, and I try to make it never my business to advocate on behalf of a developer, so I'm trying to be even in what I say is problematic here, and where I think maybe more of the developer's view would come in. But in my view, I'm just trying to be as fair as I can here. This isn't a problem the I company's making. If this road network was unacceptable now, the time to fix it isn't 2024, the time would have been 2005, when they should have made the access to Drumheller. That's my opinion. Since they didn't make the access to Drumheller then, it's hard, I think it's hard to come back 20 years later and say, well, how could, how can we?
How many units in there?
How many units now are in
No,
Somerset?
new ones.
New ones, it would be about, it's still under review, because as I said, the agency review, the whole project was put on pause. We were talking about shifting some units, combining some units, but it's gonna be somewhere in the high 60s, low 70s. So again, in the grand scheme of the 374 units currently there, is 68 more units gonna make or break?
There's 374 there now.
Yes.
Okay.
Jack?
Miles, is the current development of this future development, is any of that served by hydrants at all that you're aware of?
So there are hydrants on the Somerset site, and there would have to be hydrants installed on this site.
Okay.
And there's even been talks, they have, one of the things that the fire marshal has communicated to them just on the waterfront is, they are gonna have to build these to the row house or townhome spec specified in the Michigan State Building Code and Residential Code. If they fail to do so, they'll be sprinkling all these units, or it's not an option, it's State of Michigan Building Code.
Is the, any of our emergency services folks that do the review, are they at all concerned that there's only one access point? Like if the, road was washed out, there'd be no way to get emergency services in there?
So I can't fully speak to that because I haven't gotten their reviews yet, because this whole thing was paused once the flag was raised by the road commission, because that had implications across every other review, to the point that you're bringing up. I think our emergency responders and my conversations with them, though, have always been adamant that they're gonna make it happen. I don't know, Karen, maybe you have some thoughts.
I mean, I think we have other developments in the area that have tighter restrictions, where egress and ingress is difficult. I could name a couple right off the top of my head, I won't. But I don't see concerns with this. I don't think that a lot of the calls to this area are, I know a lot of people live there, but I don't think the calls are great. They certainly do have medical emergencies, but those can be handled with different trucks. You don't always require a fire truck, but I think the vehicles that we have are adequate to get in and get out when they need to.
Yeah, it would only matter if something happened to the entrance, is what I'm saying.
Correct. And I think in terms of if there was a sewer emergency, if there was a water emergency, you would see additional services out in the area. I can speak to the sewer services. You would see some traffic management if that was the case, because they need to be able to get in and fix that as quickly as possible. And if rerouting some traffic either up the, you know, you can see where it's split and there's an in and an out. It may just cause some, you know, traffic to be routed through one or the other, but I think that you would see some traffic management services as well as whatever other need there would be.
My question was if that is not available.
Yeah,
Right, like the road is flooded out, there's now no way to get into the area to do what needs
Well,
to
that's
be done.
already an issue,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
I mean, it already is an existing condition.
One point
Yeah.
that's probably worth bringing up is, I was just thinking about this as the superintendent was talking. So with Webster Road construction, we've actually been having that similar conversation, especially in this dip in the road, which I think a lot of people online, by the way, have incorrectly said that's where Norm Fastener is going.
Yeah.
Everything happening right now, by the way, has nothing to do with Norm Fastener. It all has to do with road construction. When that dip gets filled, there's gonna be a period in time of where that section of Webster Road is completely inaccessible.
Correct.
It might be a couple of days, I'm not sure, it's something that we're still getting details on, we'll push out to the public. But we've been talking with the road commission, okay, what about fire trucks? And we've been working through with them on, again, temporary routes and a gravel road being brought in to allow passage of emergency vehicles. I would imagine if we were in that situation in this scenario, we'd be looking for a similar solution.
Okay. Go ahead, Kate.
I think one concern that was just raised with this project in general, and it's bringing it back up again as an issue, is traffic on Webster Road. And I know as somebody who personally exits the westbound I-69 ramp and then has to make a turn north, a left turn north onto Webster Road in the afternoon, it's currently very difficult.
Yeah, there's traffic.
And I just wondered what sort of the process is that the road commission uses to decide when there's too much traffic for the way the road is currently set up. Like, what's the trigger for, we need a light, or we need to reconfigure these intersections, or we need longer lanes, or we need a passing relief lane to go around vehicles that are turning so that people just don't blast around on the shoulder. I think this and the Norm Fastener's project and others are raising a lot of the questions about traffic management on Webster Road, which this isn't that much more traffic, but it is more traffic. It's not less traffic, certainly.
Yeah, so I know it's something that obviously, as you were talking about it, lots of people have talked about, it's something that the road commission is hearing. I think it all has to do with capacity for the road as they view capacity and what the traffic counts are. And so, you know, we've been working with them to get the most recent data we can to keep analyzing all this. I too make that turn a lot, and I agree, I'm like always looking over, I'm like, here comes another car, just waiting forever.
At what point in the review process, and who would determine if a study was needed?
Yeah, so, a study was conducted on this, and, that was when it was at a higher density. And so they have argued, like, we've studied this, now has been pushed back on by some of the members of the planning commission at this point, saying, yeah, but, you know, the township has changed a lot, even though it was a higher density, and now you're building significantly lower than what was initially proposed, cause when, just for history, when that original traffic study was done, that's when it was proposed to be apartment complexes on this 18-unit parcel, and the dwelling number was like in the hundreds, now we're like in the 60s. But in that same period of time, I mean, we've had a lot of housing growth and single-family housing, a little bit more commercial activity going on. So yeah, there's more traffic. It would be at our, if we can get through this hurdle, then we would get back into that, okay, now what about everything else? As far as a light goes though, I think that's a broader conversation outside. That's more like, well, what's going on with Webster Road, not what's going on with any individual development.
But would the road commission, would they be the ones to request a study?
They can
Of I-
suggest that a study is needed, and
Okay.
it would be a part of their review that we'd probably be looking to see what they say.
Could the planning commission bring that up as an item that they would like to see?
So typically, we'll see what the road commission says about that, but the, request to actually, or maybe the word will be better, the order to conduct the traffic study would come from the planning commission.
Okay.
So it can kind of be suggested from either body, at the end of the day, the planning commission's gonna be the one
So
that tells the
it's a tool in the planning commission's toolbox, that they can use to make sure everything is safe?
Yes,
Okay.
100%.
Thank you.
The, so northwest quadrant of the Somerset, could you scroll up a little bit, Karen?
Sorry.
The undeveloped area, is that developable?
No, I mean, we hesitate
That's
to
all
use the
swamp.
word
That's it.
developable, because technically, I shouldn't say no, there's no definites, right? Technically, there is a wetland bank established at the state, they could buy enough wetland credits, they could bring in fill dirt, and they could build whatever there. It is cost prohibited to do so.
Okay, and Somerset hasn't said any
The
inkling about that.
Current company that owns Somerset is Amp Realty, and they're more in the business of managing properties,
Okay.
not developing and expanding properties.
So the likelihood that they would wanna develop that and then we could do an access point at that point is very low.
Very slim.
Okay. So what is exactly being asked of us? The road commission just wants us to be like, hey, we got your back on this.
It's basically in the third part of my memo, you're either saying you agree with the first part of that section 3, which is we acknowledge the 1 point of entry, and we acknowledge that it is not within the developer scope to provide a second point of entry, or you're saying the reverse is true.
But they're road commission rules, right? Not Bath Township
They're not.
rules?
You're just acknowledging the situation, and they're asking the township to acknowledge that that is the case.
Is this like CYA?
I was asked to provide the letter, and I did not think it was appropriate for me to supply the letter acknowledging the situation, so that's why it's in your lap tonight. I think this should be a board decision, because it is a bigger issue than us. I mean, it's an inherited issue from 20 years ago, but, you know, the players are all different at the road commission and on our board as well, so.
But we're not technically giving approval for anything.
You're acknowledging the situation and saying you don't believe it's incumbent upon the developer to provide another ingress egress.
Yeah, you're acknowledging that it's not, it's almost not possible.
Yeah, it just seems like a strange thing. It doesn't matter.
Well, I think it's strange, and again, this is now I'm in the realm of opinion, I think it's strange that you're being asked to acknowledge these things, cause it's got nothing to do with you. It's a road commission standard, these are road commission roads. I think the staff at the road commission feels the same, however, it's been asked, and so here we are.
Is there any liability we undertake by saying we acknowledge these things?
No, I don't think so, and I think if I can, like, creating an analogy of what they're asking for, if a neighbor was seeking, a dimensional use, or dimensional variance, and whatever body that was in front of sought a neighbor to, you know, providing opinion on that, I think that that's essentially what they're asking for here, cause they know that, well, it will affect Bath Charter Township. You guys don't have say in it, and whatever that neighbor thinks, at the end of the day, right, that wouldn't be able to sway that body. So they're asking for your opinion, but at the end of the day, you guys could say, well, yeah, we don't think it's a great idea, and they could waive it anyways, as I'm reading it related to the standards and their ability to waive it. So from purposes of liability, I don't think that there is any. I think that they're just asking for the township's position so that they can make an informed decision themselves.
Okay. Got it.
This is like when your dad asks you to ask your mom, and then your mom tells you to ask your dad.
Yep, I will say that's a perfect analogy, and that happens often at the ZBA for, people that have said, neighbors will be there, and what do you think about, Mr. X's fence? Like, what are your thoughts on the fence?
Right, and no matter what they say, I mean, you could end up granting the variance.
Which often happens. They might say,
Right.
I hate the fence, I don't want the fence, or, yeah, well, it's their property and we feel like they should have a fence.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it feels more like the surgeon is asking you to ask the receptionist what she thinks of what the surgeon's going to do. Like, we don't know. I mean, we can give an opinion and probably will tonight, but like, that's
Yeah,
not,
that's why I did my
we're
best
in.
to lay out the situation of what the problematic, areas around one point of entry and then, where other points of entry. You could, one thing I guess I didn't mention too is even if you go, you can see where Food Bank Lane is, how far north you would have to go to get out of that
Yeah.
limited access. So, yeah, you could do a second point of entry past that point, it's gonna be 40 feet south
Right.
of the current entry point.
I really think the crux of this is it comes down to is we have a situation created by decisions made 20 years ago. We want you to be aware of it and we want you to say you acknowledge it because if there are ever problems, we all have to figure out how to deal with them.
Well said.
Okay. Other questions, thoughts? This is, an item for action tonight.
Thank you all.
Thanks, Miles. So the action would be a motion of acknowledgement?
Yes, and that we recognize that IDE is unable to provide a second access point.
Okay.
All we're saying is the county has to do what the county has to do, because we have no control over, really, another entrance. Because it's a county that's doing it. Because it's a county road, and the county has to approve, along with MDOT, put another road in there.
Yeah. It's a strange format, because we're not taking any actual action.
Correct.
It's not our choice to forbid this to happen altogether, I gather, right?
Well, we want it to happen.
We
We
want
need
it.
the housing, we need it to go through.
I mean, I guess that is the question.
No,
I mean,
it's
you
a
could
question, that's a
also
real question.
If you thought it was not a good idea, then I think that would be,
Well,
Where
I'm
we- this is
questioning
where
that,
we would voice it.
is this a bad idea with only one entrance? In the long run, in the long haul, is this a bad idea? That's my question.
Well, why did the county road commission allow those to be built the way it was
Well,
20 years
so
ago
they made a
without
mistake.
second?
So now they
20
make,
years ago.
so if they made one mistake
mean-
20 years ago, does that make it all right to make another mistake today? That's where my brain goes.
So are you gonna tell owner he can't build what he wants to build on it?
It's our right to. That's my understanding.
well, in a technicality, it's not.
It's not
But
our
they're
right.
asking us to
No.
weigh in on it. Yeah, I mean,
No,
I,
it's
no,
not our
Sherry,
right to tell somebody they
I
can't
hear
build
what you're
something on
saying.
their property.
It sort of goes to the stuff that we've been doing on the finance committee that, 50 years ago, someone made a decision like, well, now we're screwed with that decision. Do we continue to make bad decisions? But like, what is the downfall here, Miles? Like, what is worst case scenario? We say yes, they put the units in, and now the downfall could be.
There is risk here. I'm gonna be careful, how I word things. So, the government is not absolute in telling people what they can and can't do with their land. By this standard that the road commission has enforced here, if they were to enforce their standard by the letter of the law, then no, this could not, these units could not go in by their standard, nor could a single-family home on this 18-acre parcel. And so there are implications when you make a ruling like that. What is that government agency doing to the status of that 18 acres? And how does that affect the property owner? And I'm not a lawyer, and I guess I hesitate to even want to go down that road.
But that's not really our question. Like, if
That's not
the
the question,
government in this
but that's
sense
not
is
the
not
question
Bath
before you,
Township,
but-
it's the road commission.
No, they're the controlling agency.
Right, I just wanna be
Doing
clear for
this.
everyone up here, when you say the government has limitations,
But when-
in this case, it's the road commission.
Yeah, it's the road commission, for sure.
So like what, I guess a better question is, why do they have this rule in the first place? Like, what is this helping or preventing?
Well,
That we
for-
might be making worse by saying we acknowledge this?
Well, I think it's trying to prevent the situation, the problematic situation that this site is currently in, which is if construction happens and there's only one access point, then, yeah, a lot of people's lives are gonna be inconvenienced in like a major way.
So it's mostly about traffic flow?
Yeah.
That's their concern?
Yeah.
So I guess, Sherry, that's the crux of this. Do we think this will exacerbate traffic flow, and are we willing to acknowledge that we know that there's added risk to that?
But with benefits at the same time.
Right.
Yeah,
With that risk does
risks
come.
with benefits.
Does come the benefits of more housing, which we know is at a premium
Yeah.
in Bath Township,
Tax revenue?
and the tax revenue
Mm-hmm.
that comes along with that.
And that's what I'm trying to convey here. When I do these agency reviews, it's kind of funny. Because SCUMA is solely narrowly focused on, well, how does this affect the sewer? That's all they care about is what the sewer standards. The road commission, all they care about is road commission standards. There's like 20 agencies and they care about one specific item. It's the job of planning and the job of the board ultimately to factor all these things together. And that's what I'm saying, you're never gonna have a site that is completely risk-free. But with the exception, with the acknowledgement that there is one access point, other than that, I mean, it's an ideal parcel for development. It's sandy, it's flat, there's, all these things that I can list off.
Does that help, Sherry?
Yes, no.
I got a question.
Yeah?
Do we have enough sewer capacity to,
In this area, we do.
Yes.
without putting the 11-foot tube
Yes.
across, Lynn's?
We currently have enough, yep. Without redesigning our system or making any major improvements to the system.
Other
And is
questions?
the water, we got enough water?
We do.
Because I see they're putting another water line up along Walnut Hills.
I think the Board of Water and Light is currently looking for ways to create redundancies within their own system right now, but it has nothing to do with a capacity issue. It's more just creating redundancies.
Jack?
Let's do a thought experiment here. What if we don't act on this? What if nobody makes a motion to acknowledge this and act on it? Is the road commission then gonna say, sorry, can't put your houses in there? Or are they just gonna move forward?
They're forced to move forward. They have to make a choice here. And I think the road commission knows the situation they're in.
Yeah, they do.
And they just wanna pull us right into the situation, don't they?
I think I would add that in the time that I've served as superintendent, I've seen the relationship between the Clinton County Road Commission and our township improve drastically. I think they value our opinion. I think they're trying to be a cooperative agency with us. So I feel the angst of the being pulled into the situation. I think they're just trying to allow us to have input.
Yeah.
And an awareness of that this is an issue that we inherited from 20 years ago. And you could say nothing, and they would go forward with their agency review, and make a decision. I think they're just asking for cooperation and what do we think? And where does that play into what they know is the current situation?
Yeah, I think that's true. It's in good.
I don't think they're trying to pull a, Bath Township said. I think that they're honestly trying to be a good partnering agency and asking for our feedback on a situation that none of us were here 20 years ago to create.
Yeah, I hear that. Intent and impact are two different things.
I agree with that as well.
What would this, I'll ask legal counsel, what would this motion look like? A motion to acknowledge, a motion of acknowledgement? I mean,
Yeah,
we're
I
not
think-
actually taking action.
Right, I think it would just be a recognition, so a motion to acknowledge whatever this board wishes to acknowledge. And I do think, though, the board should consider what exactly it is acknowledging. Because I know that here it says to acknowledge that it's, the IDE company is unable to provide a second access point, which I think is one thing to acknowledge. But then there's an additional one that the board is comfortable with the road network elements of this proposed development. And I think that that would be a different thing. And so I think that the board ought to consider exactly what it is acknowledging, and at the same time also make sure that it's not foregoing any other review that it may potentially have related to traffic issues, or otherwise that could be brought up in the review process.
Yeah, I think it's fair.
Have we seen the road elements?
The road element is just the existing network.
So not anything else they're adding to it?
I don't think, did we include that in the packet?
We did not.
Okay.
We didn't include the IDE plans, and I think that's what they're asking for, is the roadwork pathways within that 18 acres.
Yeah, so I guess the board hasn't seen that then.
So are you okay with us just acknowledging this no second access point, but not acknowledging we're comfortable with road
Commission enough to help them out.
elements? Okay. I'm sorry.
That's a good point by legal
Oh,
counsel.
that's okay. Why don't we have the road commission come down here and talk with us?
They did want to be here tonight, but unfortunately, there was a thing in Watertown Township that required them to be in Watertown.
The incident over the weekend with Watertown Township required them to
Well, why don't we have
send their
them come to our
people.
next meeting and give us some answers, because I've talked with them, I know what they're gonna say, but
Sorry, I'm looking at
they're
the calendar.
willing to accept the situation as it is because it is 20 years old. And that they won't let it happen again in that township or any other township in the county.
In your opinion, do you think this could wait 2 weeks?
Well, I think that the information's been presented, and I think that we have a development that has already been drawn out quite a while, and now it's been further been drawn out to ask for your opinion tonight. And so if you waited 2 weeks, then they have to wait that timeline, then they have to wait 2 more weeks to go back to the road commission, because the road commission's waiting on this. So you just set everything back another month. It's already been set back a month. For a problem of not their making.
Yeah, also not our making.
Yeah.
True.
We're co-victims in this. I mean, how do you all feel about that? We could wait 2 weeks. Our planner's advising we don't, for good reason.
That second part that says the road network elements of this proposed development is presented, how can we accept it when we haven't seen it?
I think legal counsel made a good suggestion to just
Separate them.
just remove that from the acknowledgement.
Just to provide a second access point within the scope of the proposed project, right?
Yeah,
That
the
they will
acknowledgement-
not.
That they're
that they
unable to
can't.
provide it.
Yeah.
So just do a recommendation, have Karen type a letter
Yeah, I
that
think
states
that's-
that's our viewpoint.
Yep, I think that's smart, just keep it as limited as possible.
How's everybody?
I'm happy, I mean, obviously, I think it's fine to have the road commission come back, but I don't know what other information they can provide.
I will say that this project did come before the planning commission a few weeks ago. No group that I've ever worked with asks more thorough and often pedantic questions than the planning commission. So I feel comfortable personally sharing that they did not raise this as a major issue, which I can't imagine it would have escaped their notice.
They were aware that the road commission was doing
Yes,
this?
traffic was
Okay.
brought up as an issue, more, I think, in the context of Webster Road than entrance and exit, but it was brought up as an issue there.
And I would offer, you have a transportation engineer sitting, a former transportation engineer sitting on your commission. So I think if it was going to be an issue, he would have brought it.
And I don't want to speak for them specifically, but I know that we did have this project introduced and just went through the normal process.
Jack?
Prepared to make a motion, Mr. Chairman.
Let her
I'd like to make a motion, the Bath Charter Township Board of Trustees acknowledges that the Ide Company is unable to provide a second access point within the scope of this proposed project.
A second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Is there discussion about that motion? Miles, when will the fire department look at this and give you feedback?
So after this, we're still within that period of like a red flag is still up. So if this goes through, then it will go to the road commission. They will either take a vote in the affirmative of granting the deviation from their standards, in which case then the agency review will be restarted and probably be 2-3 weeks out from a decision.
So they haven't even gotten it yet?
That we don't, the agency review's been on pause. I don't have all the agency reviews in.
You don't have them in, but does the fire department have this?
They've seen it, yep, and they've probably started their review, but they haven't turned it into the planning department, because we said, hey, project's on pause.
Got it. You told them to stop. All right. Yeah, that's my only concern, is if they said, you know, the risk here is we are putting a bunch more people or buildings at risk and we may not be able to access them. The traffic risk is really the people who move into here's risk, which sort of, you know, sucks for them.
Well, I think that would be a whole different calculus, and that's a conversation we'd have at planning commission. So, and in the fire department's standpoint too, they need more plans from the developer, but the developer's not generating the plans, because why would they spend another 10,000 when we don't even know if this is gonna get through the road commission?
Yeah, I just thought the agency review was concurrent, that they all were looking at the same time.
Yeah.
But you're saying it's
Usually.
staggered.
Usually it is. It's different in this case.
Yeah,
Okay.
because there was more sheets needed to complete the reviews. You know, as you know from your time with planning commission, you get an introductory sheet and then sheets
Yeah.
get provided, reviews start to come in, but then the fire department, they need more complete information. Their review is pretty comprehensive. Where the road commission, they can pretty much do a
Yeah.
one pager.
But the fire department will still have the right to like make a caution flag.
100%,
Okay.
yeah.
Police and fire.
We could get through this red flag and we could have 20 more red flags after this.
Always an optimist.
Yeah.
All right, those are my questions. Other questions on the motion? Okay, just to repeat, the motion is to acknowledge that the Ide Company has no ability to create a second access point in this development. What do you think, council, on roll call vote or yes? It's not on your little sheet that says we should roll call vote, but it sort of feels like we should here.
Yeah, I suggest a roll call vote.
Like maybe this should have been like a resolution.
No, I'm comfortable with it being a motion.
Just a letter.
Yeah.
All right, let's take a roll call vote.
Trustee Rosecrans?
Yes.
Trustee Hagerman?
Yes?
Supervisor Funes Bliss?
Yes.
Treasurer Wilson?
Yes.
Trustee Kellerman?
Yes.
Trustee Phillips?
Yes.
Motion passes, thank you. Will you keep us updated on this, Miles? Thanks. That brings us to item 15, superintendent's report.
Thank you for your time tonight, Miles. Our office, my office has been, thank you, extremely busy, obviously, with the positions currently open, interviewing and preparing for new employees. The Webster Road and Chandler Road projects obviously are also taking time in selecting the engineering firm that will be working on the Chandler Road project. I expect that will calm down a little bit as Webster Road amps up, preparing for a bid letting in September. We have been, our DPW has been in full-scale work preparing our cemeteries for Memorial Day. As you well know, Pleasant Hill is the cemetery of the end of the Memorial Day parade that is put on by the American Legion. So our cemeteries will be in full view of all the community members that participate in that parade. They're pouring foundations and obviously doing landscape work that needs to be done to make those beautiful for that day. The police department is currently in the process of training several new employees, and we have one more candidate potentially being placed into the police academy this summer. which is good news. I'm told out of the officers that we have now, we've never had as many new officers that have less than 4 years of experience. So our department is quite fresh and new, and training is vital to what they do every day on behalf of our community. So we're dedicated to making sure they're trained well and that they're prepared for whatever this community might need in the future. Developments, I can't thank Miles enough. He's just left, but I will pass this along to him tonight in an email. Residential and commercial developments are obviously gearing up. That is not the extent of his work, although very important. He does a lot of fence permits, deck permits, and he's going out and inspecting footings, and I didn't want to say footings. So he and his team are very hard at work going out into the field and inspecting what people are requesting. It happened with their properties, such as fences and decks and pools and things like that. So he's very much at work. His intern, Alexis, we call her Lexi here in the office, is actually leaving us for another internship, and she's going to work with Matt Wendling at his firm. So we're very proud that she's moving on and moving up, but also sad to lose her as well. She fit very well with our team, and she was added, I mean, even through the Chandler Road project, added a great deal of knowledge and comments to that process and helping us select the right firm to work with. So she's been a huge asset to this team. And last but not least, I'll mention that on Friday, our team here at the Township did an active violence and safety training. We had 18 employees and a board member that participated in that, and that was put on by Detective Wesley Sherman of the police department and our assistant fire chief, Kevin Douglas. It was very informative and I think very helpful. This is the first time we've done anything like this in the township, and I think that what I saw is that we should be doing more of this to help our employees prepare for unfortunate and situations of the current way that our world is. People don't like to pay taxes. People don't like a lot of what government does. And therefore, I feel like our employees should be trained in the event that something tragic should happen. And then, last but not least, our police and fire departments helped respond to the incident on Wacusta Road this weekend. These are very difficult situations. A family was walking down the road, a family of about 13 people. A couple of them were killed, and several of them are injured. And so I just ask that you keep our firefighters and police officers in your prayers and in your thoughts, because what they do is difficult work, and they don't always, as popular as our police department and fire department are, these are very difficult things for them to deal with. We'll make sure they get the resources they need to deal with these situations as well, but it was a tragic event, and I'll be reaching out as well to my counterpart in Watertown Township to see if there's anything I can do or that we can do to help them.
Is it confirmed that it was alcohol related?
I can't,
It was
The news said that.
okay. I've not been told that personally, but
it was out there.
if the news is reporting
It
it.
was on the news this morning, tonight.
Well, if it's on the news, it must be true.
There's a press release from the
Yeah, there was,
Sheriff's Department.
yep,
Okay.
there was.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Questions for the superintendent? Al?
Just some information, the Admiral's 2 stations, 2 buildings are down.
Yep.
They haven't done nothing with the gas pumps, but they have taken care of them. And I do have a question. I seen some real happy geese walking across the road with the little ones following them. And I was just wondering if we didn't oil the eggs this year, or
So
we just missed these?
we contract with Goosebusters, because several years ago, as many of you know, our beach was closed to swimming, because of the E. coli problem, and that was designated by the Mid-Michigan Health Department as unsafe, for our residents and visitors to be in the water. We contracted with them. We also put in a permit to Eagle for nest destruction. It's very possible that they did not find all of the nests, and therefore some hatched.
They're very happy.
There were 10 nests. Dan Hayes told me the other day that there were 10 nests, and he thinks they missed 3.
Okay. Yeah, it's somewhat difficult. I think in the past, Dan has helped them with the location of those nests. He is the man that knows everything about that lake, and I do think that some were missed this year, and that's why you're seeing some of the goslings that you're seeing.
And they're down at the boat launch, not at the beach, so.
Yeah, so what we
That'll
will
help.
do is, DPW had a couple years ago discovered a spray. The active ingredient is that of grape Kool-Aid, which makes the grass very bitter for them. And if they don't have anything to eat, they will move on to somewhere else. So we will begin implementation of another deterrent, so that they stay off the public portions of our parks, so that our residents can enjoy those.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
With the additions to the police force, does that bring us up to full?
With this last one, it will bring us up to full, and it's a large undertaking. Overtime, I will offer that overtime will be astronomical this year. It's important that we have people to train them both on the day shift and the night shift, and so we are asking a few trainers to train several new people at one time. So I do think you'll see an increase in some of the expenses for the police department, but it will bring us back up to full staff.
Great. Jack?
I just want to kind of, so I understand that. Are you talking about the one that they're gonna, the next one they're gonna put in the academy, or one they get everybody on the road that they have currently?
The one that is going into the academy would bring us up to full.
Okay, so that's a year away.
We're still short. Yeah, so you're,
Okay.
yes, you are, that is correct, a year away.
Okay.
It's good to know. Other questions, comments for the superintendent? All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Let's move to our second public statement. As I said at the beginning of the meeting, we have another public statement opportunity limited to 3 minutes on any topic you wish to discuss.
Good evening again, Judy Gardy. My concern has to do with traffic calming. You've talked a lot about traffic tonight and how traffic in the community is increasing. Average speed on Park Lake Road is still 37 miles an hour. And in May last year, we, Friends of Park Lake, conducted a walking tour of Park Lake Road with the road commission and many people from the township. I think the number one thing that will make a huge difference on Park Lake Road is enforcing the speed limit. It's great to have cops on the road, watching people travel down the road, and I think their presence helps to reduce the speed, but I think that enforcement and writing tickets when you go 40 miles an hour down Park Lake Road and you get a ticket, I think you're more likely to slow down. But secondly, I really think that, I know we're getting crosswalks, the road commission is working on 2 crosswalks. But again, as we spoke last year, I think it's really important to tell drivers who probably are not familiar with Park Lake Road and Park Lake that there is a beach ahead. There is no sign on either side of the lake that says there's a beach ahead. And kids are walking down there, kids are riding their bikes down there, kids are running off the beach and down to the bathroom, and there's no sign that says there's a beach ahead. And I not only think that it's important for residential people in the neighborhood to feel more confident that this traffic does know that there's a beach ahead, but also for commercial vehicles that drive down there that are not familiar with the area and they're just racing down that road. I think it's important for the safety of our community to have beach ahead signs on that road. And I don't know what to do about it. I think the road committee's meeting tomorrow, is it not? I've talked to the road committee about this, and I just think that it would be beneficial for our community and the safety of our community if we notified people that there was a beach ahead. And I would really like to know what we could do to make that happen this year and how we can help to make that happen. So what can we do to help that happen?
Could we get a sign maker and put one on each side of the beach?
Well, those things
don't
all have
think
to go
it's
through the
us.
road commission.
Oh.
But, I mean, I think one of the ways that you could move it up to us is to have the Park Lake Advisory Board make a formal recommendation, because all of committees have a formal recommendation process that will come to us.
The road commission says that that kind of a sign is the township's responsibility. It's not their responsibility.
No, they have to put it up.
They put them up.
We would pay for it, they'd have to put it up.
Right.
That's what we had to do with the directional signs and the farmer's market
So you're
signs.
saying that rather than the request coming from Friends of Park Lake, that the request for a sign of that nature should come from the Park Lake Advisory Board.
I'm not saying should, I'm saying that is one pathway. That is one of the formal ways to get something onto our agenda and for us to take
So they
action.
meet again the end of June, and, the beach is still open, there's no sign down there. They make you a recommendation in July. So I'm just asking, how can we get a sign up there this summer that says there's a beach ahead?
I think a recommendation is the way to go, Judy. Then it's not one person at public statement asking for something. It's a formal organization asking us for it.
Thank you.
Anybody else have other thoughts on that?
Have the power to do that, I would think.
We do have the power, Judy. My recommendation is to work through the Park Lake Advisory Board. All right, since we're out of public statement. So, board member comments. Sherry, I think I've been picking on you lately, so we'll start with Kate today.
I don't know that I have much. We did attend the candlelight vigil on Saturday for the remembrance of the 97th anniversary of the Basco disaster, which I think does underscore the point that was made there, that acts of violence are not necessarily new. We keep talking about this new world. They're certainly more common, but they are not new, as our community well understands. But it was very nice, and I saw Ryan there, so it was nice to have some representation from the board there at that community event. It was hot, but it was nice.
Yeah.
If I could, thank you for the clarification.
Oh,
I don't ever mean to minimize what happened in
no,
our
no, no, no,
community,
no.
but I appreciate that clarification.
We will talk to the county about getting the signs put up for Judy, being she walked out in a huff. There's no reason for that. We've been trying to work with the county, and people forget that the county isn't always the fastest bunch to get something done. But we have been talking with them, and we still will.
Thanks, Al. I've got a couple of things. I was really surprised at our special meeting how few people in the audience knew how our agenda process worked, that they come out and folks can get emails about it. So each of you have a copy of this in case you all are not getting the emails automatically sent to you. So for those folks listening, there's a function on our website that every time an agenda or a packet for the board or any of our committees are posted online, an email automatically gets sent out. So you don't have to keep looking for it, keep going and checking to see if something's online. It's sort of proactive in that sense. I've used it, I use it for all the committees. It's really helpful. Sometimes random things will happen on committees that don't meet very often, and I get a notification. So wanted to bring that up so people in the audience at home and you all know that that's an opportunity. And maybe, Karen, there's something we could put on the agenda here to direct people in that way. It's a much easier way to get the information. I was thankful to be at the memorial Saturday, thanks to the museum committee for putting that on. I had not been to one yet, and the act of reading out the victims' names is an incredibly powerful thing. I won't say that I enjoyed it, but I thought it was very moving. I also want to point out, we all got an email that Helen Murphy passed. She's been a longtime volunteer and involved in the township, and I just want to acknowledge her family and thank her for her service to the township. She was serving on a committee right up until the end of December of last year. I also got a request from the Clinton County SWAT team. That's not what they're called, but that's functionally what they are, seeking some fundraising dollars. I talked to Sergeant Hamilton this weekend, and it said, what are other communities giving? What are you really asking us for? And he said that our friends in DeWitt are giving $10,000. And I asked him, does he have all of the communities pitching in? He said no. So what I'm going to bring to you at the next meeting is some sort of recommendation to ask you all of some amount to give to them, because we're using them more and more often, but maybe some other challenge opportunity for other communities to get in on that too. I think it's important that we're all giving to that. And it's really a low amount that they need annually. So just wanted to give you a heads up that that will be coming. I'm trying to work through what that could look like. And then finally, I want to thank Judy for her comments this morning, and I appreciate, or this afternoon. I appreciate her coming, and she did leave in a huff, and I regret that. But I think we run the risk of being over-responsive if we do everything that individual people come to public comments and want. I think her idea is great, I will support it, but I think we've got to find ways to make sure that what we're doing is the will of the community and not the will of individual people, which is why I suggested she move through one of our bodies. The road committee could be that body as well. Then the idea gets vetted and other, creative things can come up from that. So I want to be really clear, I support the idea of beach near or beach upcoming signs. I just want to make sure we're not being overly responsive to every request that comes in here. Otherwise, we'll have a line down the lectern about individual requests, trying to put some process into that. So just wanted to be on the record for that. Thanks.
I have nothing tonight.
Yeah, I'd just say I think that's a very appropriate response, because it's easy to get caught up into somebody designating themselves as a spokesperson on behalf of a committee to try and move things forward. I would just like to say, for those that are listening, for any of the committees, and particularly for what Judy is referencing, I think it's important to know they always have the option of calling a special meeting, like tomorrow, if they want to,
Right.
or within the time limit that they have to notice it, so they can move these things forward. It doesn't necessarily have to be, we gotta wait a month and then another month and then, I think these important issues crop up. It'd probably be appropriate maybe to, if that's the direction that they want to go in, to maybe call a special meeting to approach these things. Just throw that out there for anybody listening.
Thanks, Jack. Shay?
Yeah, maybe easier, I'm on the committee, so I can bring it to the board next time.
Be fine.
Duh. As a representative
great.
from the board, I'll
We're
do
giving you
that.
all sorts of assignments for your committees
Yeah.
today. Anything else you want to add, Sherry?
That's about it. The signs were talked about over and over, and we can bring it
it's
up.
important, yeah, sure.
But I can be the one to be the mouth.
Thanks, Jerry. All right, if there's nothing else, I'd entertain a motion for adjournment.
I move we adjourn.
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We stand adjourned. Thanks, group. See you in June. You know what's great about May?
It's over.
No, 3 pay periods.
For you?
For me, yeah. Maybe